It's 6 o'clock in the evening on Tuesday, November 13th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Heather, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Insko?
Aye.
Mr. Rashagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Here. If the trustees are here, Mr. Mills?
Very good. I recommend that the trustees make a motion to go into executive session in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to discuss the employment and compensation of public employees, and also in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G8, to consider confidential information relating to specific business strategies and to discuss negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance.
I'll make the motion.
I second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insko?
Aye.
Mr. Rashagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. The board will go into executive session and will return before 7 o'clock for the regular start time of our meeting. We have returned from executive session. Jeff?
There's nothing to report.
Okay, with nothing to report from executive session, I'd ask you to all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd ask that you remain standing for a moment of meditation and think about what President Lincoln recognized in 1863, which we celebrate next Thursday, I guess, Thanksgiving. And what a wonderful, blessed country we live in, and just a moment of silent thanks for the great bounty that we have been provided here in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next item is fiscal officer.
Yes, I have the approval of the minutes from the October 24th, 2018 meeting for your approval.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Not for mine.
Raj? Hearing none. Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insko?
Aye.
Mr. Rashagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. The minutes are approved from October 23rd, and I'll throw it all to you, Mr. Mills.
Very good. Thank you, President Unger, Board. Good evening. We begin this evening's meeting with an exciting presentation by Mr. Michael Dinn. Mr. Dinn was hired by the township to prepare a housing market study for the Northgate Mall site, and I've been waiting with bated breath to share all this with you, and I know that you're excited too. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Michael Dinn to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening. Trustees, administration, chief, and audience. I'll get close here, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
It's a pleasure to be back before the township. We've had a new relationship. I've only been in town in this area of the metro for about 22 years. Actually, I was involved with the yacht club back when we were selling condos back then. I was so excited to come here from the West Coast, and I'm a jazz fan. I thought Colerain Township, this is really great. And I was quickly corrected by, I don't know about exciting. I have almost too much to show you tonight. This is all I do. And I'm thrilled to bring my expertise over to the township in what I call an expert but innocent approach to take a look at the supply and demand of new housing within your township and some adjacent neighborhoods. The focus, thanks to Mr. Mills, was to take a look at the potential for new rental housing on the Northgate Mall site, just as a target, let's say. I have a presentation deck I'd like to show you. This is your work product. I can't get really through all of it this evening, and I want to welcome any of your questions on my methodology or some of my suggestions. So this will be sort of top line, but the presentation is available, and I'm sure excerpts of this will be available to you and soon on your website. I start with an innocent approach. I've been doing this now for 19 years with almost every regional housing developer, lender, and many municipal leaderships, trustees, mayors, and Village Planning Associates. I put the pin, the blue in the middle of the map there at the entrance of the mall, and the red area you see is a 10-minute drive that recognizes most of the township. The next green area you see is another 7 minutes. That green ring is not really ours, but it's a ring that we influence in terms of housing. And I approach the township almost as if I've never been here before. We start with the language of demographics. It's the language that we all trust. It's a rear-looking bundle of innocent information. I don't like to show you tables. I can provide you all that stuff instead. I'll show it to you graphically. And each odd shape you see there is a U.S. Census block group. It's a super neighborhood of about 750 households. So it represents sort of a density map. And you can see the pin, you can see the 10-minute drive, and the darkest blue have the most households today. I can show you growth in the last 8 years and how around the site to the east and the southeast, right away I recognize a sector southeast of 275. We saw modest growth, about 2% per year, but the gray shades you see recognize that as the census can count them, we actually had household losses annualized every year in the last 8 years. That's a significant time for everybody because 2010 recognized sort of the recovery period of our historic downturn that began in 2007. It really is the recovery, the day after the hangover, if you will. I can show you median housing values. Notice that inside the 275, those orange shades you see are median, half above and half below housing values. They're relatively modest. You know this. I'm just telling you what to expect in your own community. The darkest shade you see have medians of $50,000 or less. The next shade of tan is about $100,000. I can show you median household incomes. I can show you a concentration of rental householders today. And those that did rent said, how much are your rents? And notice where the pin is, and to the east, we see median rents of up to $800 per month. Right away, I can see a renter household sector that's just east of the site. You're aware of it. Mr. Mills, the neighborhood's called Northbrook. Okay. I notice the 275 almost creates two different housing sectors. That's pretty understandable given the intersection of that. I can show you a concentration of employment centers today up and down the corridor, 275 and down Colerain. And then reported personal and property crimes. I just show you these to let you know that I know from a drone's view the nature, the genealogy, if you will, of your township. But that's not really who we are. And real estate, especially housing, has a lot to do with people. It's not structure, it's not housing stock. We'll get into that in a moment. So with that, I'm going to take a look at a different approach I've used for years. I believe in this, and it's called market segmentation. The PhDs call it psychographics. And what they do is, look to the right, they lump current year census data with motor vehicle records and school records and, hey, credit card usage, voting records, life insurance, magazines, internet, and they bundle it all up, and they use sophisticated algorithms to classify everybody in America in one of 67 different lifestyle types. You know, we talk about the millennials all the time. Actually, there's about 18 cousins in the millennial family. It's not just defined by age. And they all have goofy names, like the one here, Rust Belt Traditions. So Trustee Younger and I might be the same age. We might like golf, but we could live, he lives in Nashville, and I live in Cincinnati. It's how people live. And the more dear the issue is, you know, shampoo is one thing, and your next car, it works great. But if we talk about the next place you're going to live, whether you own or rent, this psychographic preference for how you want to live is universal. This is the only national data I'll show you, but the nation can act as a proxy. If we understand who we are, then what's our preference for the next bit of housing stock? Okay? Rust Belt Traditions. I'm going to talk about 3 of them tonight. About across the nation, almost 30% prefer to rent, although they usually live in single-family homes. They're families with a median age of 39 years old, median incomes of $51,800, and they stay in the same neighborhood. I'm not talking about your township. These are across the nation. But I can also offer you have a whole lot of these folks living in your township. Nearby, there's almost 6,700, and they're concentrated in these neighborhoods along 275 and east of the site and down to the south. You may recognize this as some of your own neighbors or your children. Another one's called traditional living. 30% of these, 41% prefer to rent across the nation. We have about 2,000 nearby. Located just east in Northbrook and down south in the southeast corner of the township. Younger families, median age of 36, they stay close to their family in much older homes and have median incomes of just under $40,000. There's 5,100 of these within 10 minutes, mostly in the township. I just say this for you because locating housing and our householders and our constituents by their neighborhood, that's really the measure of value. When I speak to UC and talk to the students, they talk about houses and square footage, and I said, no, the value of any home is the neighborhood in which it is set in. There's one called Parks and Recs. I know it reminds you of a television show. Slightly older, more affluent nearby neighbors. 30% choose to rent across the nation, again in single-family homes. Almost 2,000 of them live nearby in 10 minutes. There are 41. They're in diverse professions in older homes, and income's about $60,000. This is the way I look at any neighborhood from a satellite's view, just to characterize the latent demand of how they want to live before I even look at what they live in. Any questions so far? You can't see this well, and it'll be part of the exhibits, but I use all of these segments to create a demand table, and I set the variables for who likes to rent, who can afford rents of over $1,000 a month. I just set that threshold arbitrarily, something pretty high. And what I found is, when you look at these segments and how people live nearby, I can qualify of all the renter households within 10 minutes, it's almost 8,800 rental households. I deal in households, not population, front doors. Over half, 54%, we can qualify under $1,000 a month. Your nearby renters are actually quite affluent by all standards of measure. In that green ring, as you go further out, there's another 37,000 renters in every direction, and we'll qualify about 12%. What it means is if I start looking for qualified existing renters in your township within 10 minutes, if I look for a threshold of $1,000 a month or more and just start counting, I can find nearby 4,730, at least 4,730 householders that fit their criteria. They already prefer to rent. They're already in your township, and they already have the means, combined household income for $1,000 or more a month. That's considered a fairly good depth of rental market. So if you were a developer, I'd say there's pretty good depth here to consider coming into the rental market here. But let's look at what choices they have. In the simple pie chart, I went into your township, that same area, and I counted every piece of rental stock. Multifamily apartments over 40 units, those 20 to 40 units. I looked at small stuff between 4 and 20 units. I looked at duplexes and triplexes, rental condominiums, and a 44%, no surprise, 44% share of your housing stock is in single-family homes, like Northbrook. Only 31% of your rental stock today is in what we call apartments, and you haven't built that many. I'll show you where they are in a moment. In fact, in terms of scaled sites, over 200 units, I only found 4. Over 40 units, a total of 14. All but 4 of those scaled apartments over 40 units, were built before I graduated from college, and that was 40 years ago. It's old product. There's 11% share of that small 4 to 19 units you can see by the pie chart, duplex and so on. Okay, 47% of your renters today live in traditional multifamily housing stock. The rest, 53%, choose to live or the stock that they can engage for 12 months at a time is a rental home that's nearby. So right away, I'm briefing Mr. Mills and his staff thinking there seems to be, given the deep demand of your rental stock nearby and the closeness of this township, there seems to be an unserved component here, given the balance and choices that people want and expect these days. Here's where they are. This is a screenshot of my platform. The pin is still the entrance to the mall, and the dots you see there are all the scaled multifamily today. When I add in rental condominiums, you see in the gold symbology, and duplexes in the green. There's about 114, 115 duplex units available, almost 450 single-family rental apartments. And here's the punchline. Those are all the rental houses in your township. Almost 2,800 absentee-owned rental houses. This is expected. Yours is a proud older community in its evolution. Building single-family neighborhoods was your zoning, was your impetus. That's fine. The calling tonight is to recognize that a healthy share of your residents rent, and they have few choices besides the home over in, let's say, Northwood. I kept digging deeper because I recognize this in other townships, in other areas, in Indianapolis, in South Bend. And when I looked at it, I started looking at who actually owns these houses, and I look for corporations. It turns out that almost a third, there's your rental houses today. Almost a third, right there, are owned by corporations, not by the Unger family or the Insco family, renting it out to a friend of their daughters or something. Sir?
I have the one house I live in.
And your rent's exceedingly high, sir. We need it.
I own it. I've almost got it paid off.
So there's 28% by corporations, and the yellow dots you see, that's half of that subset. Those yellow dots are half of the 28%, 14%. Those are rental homes owned by the same three companies, the Vinebrooks and the Conrex, and the third I forget right now, okay? So market forces in the downturn recognized the stability of your neighborhoods, recognized the rental population, and they have invested in big time. My platform allows me in a dynamic way to serve you in the next meeting, perhaps with the mall owner, perhaps with the planning department. We can zoom down, look at the driveway level, and look at all this symbology and all this data and make some intelligent decisions. Mr. Mills, before we leave here, I'd like to talk about the mall experience a little bit before we look at some other housing, or should I keep going? I am excited, not about this data necessarily because I do this all day. I'm excited about the mall opportunity, and let me explain. I'm serving right now 4 different jurisdictions, well-intended bodies like yourselves, who have this big asset in the middle, a need for multifamily housing. And their community was really built by developers who came in with their big idea. They had a site under control. They wanted to build as much as they could for the least amount of money and get the profits and keep going. Rarely do you find a developer that actually stays or lives in their community. That's not that's not pejorative. But what's fascinating is when you consider your housing stock and how it organically grew, and how much the householder has changed. Our householders are smaller, they're more renters, they have better incomes than we believe. I just found 4,700, 4,600 that can afford over $1,000 a month. So I wonder with you how this information alongside the administrative leadership and the mall owner, how can we pull these forces together to consider supporting bringing new multifamily to help serve our community, perhaps on the mall site. Now I mention that to you because in national studies of which I'm a part of, when you look at the 10 barriers to entry for new multifamily. I'm doing this with Dr. Norm Miller. Remember Norm Miller from UC? Norm Miller and I have been doing this for the National Apartment Association for the last 2 years. We found in any community from San Diego to New York to Cincinnati Metro, there are 10 factors that bog down the development of new multifamily in the face of increasing demand. And it's not affordable housing requirements. It's not environmental restrictions. It's always land availability and the civic leadership who choose to oppose it. If we could address those two frictions, if you will, recognize a site as a potential, a great, right in the heart of our township, connected to existing venues, dining, shopping, with the migration of the big box out of almost every mall. And we could support the thought leadership around what could go there. How do we address this with the mall owner? What zoning has to happen? What sort of leadership could we exact in terms of development authority to lead the way? I ask you to consider, and from my experience, and this is a profound example of, I'm doing this in Delhi Township, I'm doing this in Carmel, Indiana right now, is rather than be the barrier, why not be the leadership behind this in the thought process and the consideration, armed with this kind of data, this kind of support staff, and see what shakes out. This is a housing product that is not low-income apartments. These are typically upscale rental housing for renters by choice, for very mobile, small households that can afford $1,000, $1,600. Most of these folks, especially the younger, I'll say millennials, can easily afford a house. They're just not going to be nearby for 3 years. They watched their parents take a bath in the house in the last downturn. They'd rather spend their investment dollars somewhere else, let's say. And unfortunately, because we built such great product, their expectations are stainless steel appliances and granite countertops and not the apartments that you and I began our career in. I ask you to consider this not just a presentation, but access to your own market and my experience around the region, and a continued conversation about how do we consider the preferences of our neighbors who maybe want to get out of that house and have something a little more carefree, a little newer, a taller ceiling, no lawn to worry about, a little dog park nearby, let's say. How do we encourage that? Because we do need it here. Let me pause for a few questions. I know you have a healthy agenda, so I'll keep this brief.
I think it's an excellent presentation, and you do a good job of showing the different demographics and housing populations in that. I'm interested to see where you're heading with it.
Great, great. Yes, sir.
Likewise.
Okay. The information is dynamic, available to your leadership for about a year before it has to be updated. I have a few more slides on the general housing stock. You want to go through that?
It's up to, would you like to?
Sure. Is this a presentation we can have and post on our?
Yes. Yes.
Where we like to post stuff right on the homepage?
Yep.
Okay.
So what do you see as the next step in all this?
I think to recognize and get comfortable with the supply and demand modeling of this, to help inform me as your navigator in this, what have I missed? What corridor, what zoning infrastructure issue, sewer boundary kind of restrict all this? What other boundaries have I missed just from the data? And let me bring several examples that we can take a look at, approach the owner of the mall or some other site that might be in here, and help strengthen your resolve and advise you on some next moves for your public and those that might even be in the meeting this evening. Interest of time, I'll just dash through what else Mr. Mills said. While you're at it, because we're going to talk about them all, but go ahead and look at all the houses. Tell us about the entire housing stock. So I took a look at and downloaded records of over 11,600 homes that were sold in your township in the last 15 years. That's a pretty healthy move. And when you divide them into $5,000 worth of assessed value, there's a distribution of these homes in the last 15 years. The median value, half above and half below, is $91,000. And 80% of all your housing was sold under $165,000. What's interesting is what happened during there. In the blue you see the vast majority are just resales of existing product. That little bit of blue down here is only 6% share of new construction by the major production builders or even some small custom home builders. But have a look up here. This is something you all know about. In the bronze, not 6%, but 9%. 9% of your sales in the last 15 years were foreclosure and bank sales, where someone defaulted on their instrument and they didn't want to leave, but the banker made them leave. And the viral effect on values in those neighborhoods that these happen is pretty horrendous. This is not bad. I've seen communities that have as high as 15 and 20% bank sales during this time. In the bronze, they're all detached homes. The little bit of violet you see up here are your attached condominium product. 1967 was the median year. Half of your housing was built between the Big War, that's Jimmy Stewart and Robert Mitchum, and the Vietnam War. That's when half your housing was built. Since then, and down through here, and this is about 1991. The biggest housing cycle America's ever seen, locally, regionally, and across the nation. A sustained 20 years from about 1991, almost to 2007. The township kind of missed it. We didn't build much new. And lastly, to encourage you about the health of your housing market, when you talk about new housing, rental, new construction, for sale, you want to do a CAT scan, understand how healthy your market is relative to some of those bank sales, relative to the circulation that makes all neighborhoods vibrant. And what you see is those 15 years of sales based on the month in which they close. On the left, what you see is a sustained about 90 per month. You were selling about 90 homes per month in a cycle. And then in the red here, you see the Great Recession. That's defined by the government. Actually, in our community, it started in about 2007, the summer 2007. And you can see some recovery through here, but here's that 2010, and look what's happened since. We've seen sustained cyclical housing activity, whether it's the Vinebrook homes or whether it's your neighbor buying a home. Sustained cyclical activity. In fact, today, it's now exceeding where we were before the recession, about 125 sales a month on median. Your housing market, rich in 80% single-family detached homes, has recovered from the recession quite well and looks very healthy. I'll leave this with Mr. Wills. I'll answer any questions you might have. I believe this is the start of a dialogue on who our householders are, how we serve them with housing, how we want to keep them nearby in the district, in the parish with their families, and how we can serve them better with new housing stock going forward.
One of the things you mentioned was 9% of the houses were bank sales.
Yes.
The house next door to mine was a bank sale 4 years ago, and actually my neighbor who bought it has done a lot of work on the house, and it's worked out okay. You talked about impediments to development, and I do not know the answer to this, and I don't think Kevin does or any of us in this room. Is there enough utility service in that area to support the change from what is Northgate Mall to what might be X number of residential units? Is there enough natural gas pressure or water or sewer capacity, that kind of thing? I don't know the answer to that.
And sir, I don't, but let me offer how we get those kind of answers. Well, that was my ringtone too. See that? In communities like this where we want answers quick and there's a site, I'm doing this.
That's just something to think about.
Well, what I offer is when we get some energy behind, let's say, the mall site, and we get a good read from the owner, I'm going to suggest to Mr. Mills that with my help, we form a small studio of 3 or 4 experts in real estate, civil engineer, planning officials, architects, and we form a little charrette studio, and we focus on this site. And the first thing we do is create a site map, all the easements, all the utility connections, what's the capacity. We find these answers as quickly as we can to make the site viable or feasible for this new multifamily. So we'll get to that. Yes, sir.
Looking at your data's pretty much old data's, all 2000. It's okay, you learn from the housing market, but I'd like to see the new data's updated like 2012, 14, 15. You know, that's what we're going to build that Northgate Mall based on the recent data's.
I'm sorry for the...
You also mentioned about 3 developers try to do the Weinberg and all them.
Yes.
They're buying old condemned houses. They try to build it. And when we go into the Northgate Mall, different type of clients we're going to do.
Yes.
That's what I'd like to hear from you. What's the cost analysis building that Northgate Mall? And you said average about $1,000 renters may come in. Is that affordable? How much money they had to spend in a Northgate Mall to convert that into condo housing? So I'd like to see that the new data's.
Okay, I think that was 3 questions. The first one was about the age of the data. All the data I show you tonight is current year 2018 compilation of data. And my modeling for the 4,700 of existing renters is actually a forecasted model going ahead about 3 or 4 years. So I try and be as current as I can in the data as long as it's reliable. And I use licensed proprietary data sources. I'm sorry for the confusion. I mentioned the 3 investors. They're not developers. They're Wall Street-based investment companies that have invested in your neighborhood by finding those homes with 4x8s and tall grass. You can actually, in a national study, they figured out the loss of value by in inches by how tall the grass was how much value was lost in that house. This has been studied for the last 10 years or so. But, sir, those 3 firms have invested by finding homes that were in distress. And typically, they will raise up the standards, clean up, renovate, and get them to not a polished luster, but a pretty good rental luster, so they can now bundle and rent those out. This is wholly different from the proposal I would offer for the Northgate Mall. Given the site is available, maybe through a joint venture or some sort of acquisition or even a long-term ground lease, that the utilities are there, its proximity to all the connections and commuter routes, dining, and so on. It's likely a tall, new construction. Parking is nearby and maybe solved. New product, wholly different than what you see over at North. I encourage all these questions in an ongoing dialogue so we can work together on this. I've just about run out of time.
Thank you.
Yeah, big box stores obviously being a dreadful thing for communities all across the country. Are you seeing a lot of mixed use taking in? I would love to see some architect renderings, I guess is what I'm getting at, but that's my 2 cents.
Okay. We found the transition, this is recent information, most big boxes have a construction life of about 20 years. They're not meant to build multifamily on top of or repurpose somehow. However, doesn't mean that the generous parking and some of that structure couldn't be integrated into a true mixed-use, new town center, public open space, amphitheater, smaller boutique serving retail. The studio that I mentioned, this is what gets them excited, to look at that acreage, or if the Sears were raised, for example, what could be fashioned there. You might be surprised what comes off that paper when we take a look at it for you someday.
Yeah. So the value's in the land, essentially, when it comes to these old big box stores.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation, and I think you're a good presenter, and thank you for correctly using the microphone so we could all hear you.
Thank you, Mr.
so
Dinn.
much.
Very good. The next presentation we have this evening is by Mr. Kevin Tolan of the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance. Mr. Tolan is going to present briefly a Get Efficient program that the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance is running, and it's a residential energy efficiency program. And
Yes.
Mr. Tolan, please tell us more.
Thank you so much. And first off, wanted to thank the trustees as well as Jenna and Jeff Mills for having us this evening. Very much appreciate the time. And before I get into the program, just a little bit about the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance. We were founded in 2009 with the mission of facilitating energy efficiency and renewable energy investments on both the residential and commercial sectors. And in that commercial space, that's specifically under the Ohio PACE banner. We are a member of the Better Business Bureau, and we were voted the Nonprofit of the Year in 2013 by the Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber. We are here today to specifically talk about boosting investment in energy efficiency and renewable energy investments at the household level and helping put additional dollars in the pockets of your residents by saving them energy and money. The partnership involves working with the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance with Colerain Township to get the word out about both the Get Efficient and Solarize programs using your existing communication channels. The programs are free, which is always a good way to start. They're non-exclusive and non-binding. Specifically, the Get Efficient program is being offered for free via the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance and the Duke Class Benefit Fund. So next slide. So the Efficiency Partners Program, as you could see from the slide here, is a way for municipalities to offer residents a home energy assessment and access to affordable long-term financing for energy efficiency upgrades. The Efficiency Partners Program is a great way for Colerain Township to offer their residents an opportunity to plug in to both our Get Efficient and Solarize programs that will empower them, your residents, via trusted sources, both the Energy Alliance and the Township, to make informed decisions through the Get Efficient online assessment tool and Solarize portal. And if they so choose to take the next steps, making those improvements, saving money, energy, and upgrading their largest asset and improving the existing housing stock. It should be noted that the Get Efficient program specifically is a recommendation in the Colerain Township Community Strategic Energy Plan as well. Next slide. So far, we've actually kind of been hitting the streets, as you can see here, and we've signed on quite a few communities. So far, we have Anderson, Delhi, Sycamore, and Sims Township signed up. We have the village of Glendale, Silverton, and Cleves, as well as the city of Wyoming and the city of Cincinnati as partners in this program. So we're excited for the momentum to continue. Next slide. So when we developed this program, we really wanted to break down those barriers to energy efficiency. As we all know, a lot of people just either have a lack of information or don't know where to turn. A lot of people are being bombarded by information on a daily basis, social media, etc. So this program is really trying to address that in terms of a conduit. Lack of time, that's another aspect. Everyone's running around on their daily routine. Lack of trust, that's a big one in terms of working with a conduit, both the township as well as Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance, to basically build that trust bridge to your residents. And then lack of capital, depending on where people are at, this program also offers a financing mechanism if the residents so choose. So the next slide. And so what we've done is we've created this program that answers all of those questions. We're really trying to drive solutions. So with the lack of time, there's that free online assessment. In terms of that trusted advisor, there's an access to an energy advisor, which is actually the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance playing that role, as well as our qualified contractor network. The contractor network has really been kind of the foundation of our residential energy efficiency program since the founding of our organization. They are highly vetted, very well qualified, and they all sign service level agreements with us to make sure that our residents and our partners, our local government partners, are getting the absolute best experience that you can possibly get. And that's a big item for us. Long-term financing, our partner is Vanderbilt Financing, which is actually out of Tennessee. Their largest client is actually the Tennessee Valley Authority. We searched high and low to find the best partner, and we found that with Vanderbilt for that long-term financing. And again, that's if your residents need that option. Next slide. So the user experience, this is lots of bells and whistles. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought. Yeah.
She sneezed and I said, bless you. Yeah. No big deal. She always does it.
So the user experience, next slide. It is all web enabled. 80% of actually our users are coming through their phones, which is exactly the metric that they were expecting us to hit. And that's at getefficient.org. Next slide. And so these next few slides really kind of give you a snapshot of what that user experience is like for your residents. And basically, it takes roughly 5 minutes. The first couple of questions are very, very basic, such as home type, the number of floors, occupants, size in square feet, questions like that. And then if you go to the next slide, and then it gets really into the details of what's happening with your home. Everyone's home is different. And so what's great about this program is that the questions are picture-based. A lot of what's out there are some other assessment tools which have very few questions, are just text-based. But what we have is actual picture-based questions which really help your residents determine what they have or don't have in their home. So next slide. So what we have here, again, are some additional examples of some of the other questions that are asked. And as you can see, it gets kind of into the nitty-gritty, but we want to try to capture as much information as possible. And so next slide, please. So at the end of the actual online assessment tool experience, what's happening on the back end is it's aggregating all of the answers to those questions, and it's putting those in specific categories such as cooling, heating, electronics and lights, and water heating. And what it's coming up with is basically a band, as you can see in that lower left corner box, a band of where kind of your energy efficiency improvement savings is going to be coming from. And in addition to that, this program is also calibrated to current Duke Energy costs at the residential level, clearly for the Ohio market. So, and again, this is the preliminary assessment just to give residents a sense as to what the potential savings could be if certain improvements are made. And then next slide. And so another great feature of this program is, and if you don't mind going back real quick, that's okay. There's that schedule a free call button. And so what that does is when a resident clicks on it, it opens up a screen where you basically get to pick a date and time on your calendar when you're available to go through the specific results of your assessment with the energy advisor. And again, that's us. And if your resident wants to take the very next step, that's where they would actually be connected to one of our qualified contractors. And so they would come out, they would actually take a look at the house in real space and time, and then they would generate a quote to actually get the resident to see the official costs for those improvements. And if they want to take the very next step, which is the next slide, or they could do the financing as well, again, if they so choose, and that's long-term fixed rate unsecured. That bundle doesn't exist that often, and that's why that Vanderbilt financing partner is so critical if people so want to do that. And then the next slide. So then project installation is scheduled. Again, this comes back to those service level agreements that are so critical to the success of this program and for the residents' experience. So we stay on top of our contractors. It's one of our kind of pride points. And then the next slide. Quality assurance, this is another kind of service level, making sure that the residents are, again, interacting with the best contractors. And we do inspections on a portion of all the upgrades that we do. Next slide. Program benefits, there are many of them, and I'm glad that I followed Michael's presentation, because you know, housing, particularly within the 275 Beltway, is aging, and I think a lot of the data points that he pointed out in his presentation speaks to that. So certainly here, benefits improve residents' primary asset while reducing those living expenses. Depending on if you're a millennial or not, some of these more greener aspects could be a driver for you to make those investments. Next slide. And then clearly savings is remaining in the local economy. Again, that's a function of not only the potential savings, but also that contractor network we use local. And then again, creates a more desirable community and it upgrades that housing stock, which I know is a critical piece for the township as well. Solarize, this is kind of that bonus that we're also offering as part of this program. This specifically started 3 years ago with the city of Cincinnati, had great success, and last year we decided to make the decision to roll it out regionally as part of our Efficiency Partners program. So next slide. The program benefits, it's somewhat similar, parallel track to Get Efficient, not as many steps, but basically we have solarizecincy.org, that's a free solar assessment. Once you've filled out that paperwork, we're able to connect with you, similar to Get Efficient, review basically that report, and if you want to take that next step, we'll connect you to one of our qualified solar contractors. Those solar contractors, again, are vetted. We put out a competitive RFP every year to make sure that, again, you guys are getting the best experience. Also, as part of that program, you are getting a volume discounted pricing because we're able to basically grab as many people as we can through this program, and with it being part of that Efficiency Partners program with many communities, that volume grows, and so that discounted pricing is layered in there. And then on top of that, currently I'm thanking the the stars that we still have our 30% federal tax credit is still in place, and that is both for this year as well as through 2019. And then on top of that, you know, we're always requiring our contractors to have quality equipment, and then obviously qualified solar installers. And so then the next slide, again, this is just kind of bookending with all of the communities that have signed on thus far. And then the next slide, in terms of next step, or next steps, I should say, the way that this relationship would be laid out is really a very, very simple promotional partners relationship memorandum of understanding, an MOU. Basically, that just is an outline of all of what you will get, and basically what we would provide is what we call like plug and play social media kind of digital content for your communication channels. And we've been doing that for all the other local governments, so you'd get that. And then we would also host both a workshop for Get Efficient as well as Solarize as well, and we would work with the township in terms of finding a location. So yeah, that's
Very good.
That's it in a nutshell. So,
Excellent. Well, thanks. And so on the agenda this evening, there is an MOU that would effectuate a partnership between the township and Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance to roll out Solarize and the Get Efficient program for Colerain Township residents. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was that guy out there in the lobby
Yeah.
looking for
Hey,
that?
Jim Love, can you do me a favor? Can you check and see if that's one of the 19 reporters missing their microphone? He's to the left. He keeps pacing back and forth, and I assume he's looking for his. We're live. I don't know.
Please take it away from Greg.
No. You're only allowed to speak if you're
Thank
holding
you
the
very much. Okay, we will move right on to our next item, and our next item is citizens' address. I would just like to comment before we start that Jeff Weckbach and Jeff Mills put a lot of time into developing our employee policy book and trying to bring it up to date. As of last Thursday, it's been posted online on our homepage, so anybody can look at it. And some of these, I don't know what anybody's going to ask about, and that's fine, but it's just a draft. It is not in force yet. We intend to have it up for a month. Please go home and read it on your time that you have available. And obviously, we let people talk as long as they want, but I hope that, because I haven't read the whole thing yet myself, and hopefully a lot of these questions are for things besides that. So, and as usual, we don't run the clock, but I've got a lot of people that would like to speak, so I'm going to ask you to please keep your comments under 5 minutes so that you respect your fellow citizens that also want a chance to speak. And Mr. Alan Reeves, yours is on top. So I'll let you, if you'd like to speak first. We've made some adjustments to the microphone, so please get right next to it, and then everybody will hear you.
Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Reeves, R-E-V-S.
Ready to go?
Yeah, we're ready when you are.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We had an incident come up Saturday, November 3rd. It was a direct result of the Colerain High School band practicing or starting practice at 6:45 a.m. in the morning. I'm not here to condemn the school. That's not my reason for being here. I have lived in Colerain Township for 77 years. During my adult life, I've always supported the schools. I love the kids, and I think we got to do everything we can for them. However, this Saturday morning, and we've had this problem with the band, and please understand I live in an area on Pool Road where a lot of the neighbors are older, like 70, 80, like myself. I got up at about 6:45, and I said, what can I do to get this situation resolved? I've never complained to the school. I've never complained about the kids. So I sat there and I said, I think what I'll do is I'll go back to the police station here, right here, and I'll get an officer to go with me up to the football field, Colerain High School, and get him or myself to address the band director, telling him that either cease and desist or I'm going to swear out a warrant for you for disturbing the peace. I come back, I get to talk to an officer, and I'm told that the township does not have a disturbing the peace ordinance. And I kind of said, wow, what? Okay. And he said, we do have a noise ordinance. And I said, okay. He said, however, it does not include the schools. So I said, what can I do here? I said, go up there and argue with the guy or get in a big hassle about it. Anyhow, to make a long story short, I was told that they were going to send an officer up there and try to get him to stop. These Saturday morning practices, again, in 15 words or less, they will practice 5 nights a week from 6 o'clock in the evening till 9 o'clock. And I worry about the kids and their homework and the kids and their home lives, okay? Now on Saturday mornings or Saturdays, they have these, in the fall especially, they have these band
competitions, yeah.
band competitions all around the city and so forth. So this band director decides he's going to have practice before they go to the competition. I don't understand why we don't have a disturbing the peace ordinance, and I think it's something we really need to think about. There are an awful lot of situations that come up where an officer needs to have the ability to arrest somebody. And again, I'm citing specifically disturbing the peace. People can throw garbage out in your yard. That has nothing to do with sound. What do you do to stop them? You don't have a disturbing the peace ordinance. What do you do?
Is there a time of day limitation that you'd not have the band practice, or?
I have talked with the superintendent of schools, and he pledged to set up a meeting with his people and several of ours in the community and see if we can't hash this out. I will say that as a general rule, and this is not hard set, there's nothing in writing, there's no verbal agreements, but the neighbors in the neighborhood on Saturday morning don't start their mowers until 10 o'clock. Now, again, there are exceptions to that. Hot weather, people don't want to be out mowing their yard in 100-degree heat, and we understand that. There are situations where people want to travel, so they have to mow at their convenience. I'm in a working class neighborhood, okay? And it's really a problem that when I talked to the superintendent, he said, well, what would you suggest would be a time frame? And I told him about the 10 o'clock thing. Well, I saw him write down 9 o'clock. I wouldn't have any problem with 9 o'clock. I don't think the neighbors would either. He also said, well, what would you consider, and by the way, he did mention that about 90% of the kids that are in the band are in the top levels of their classes. And I said, that's fine, but what about their home life? You know, these kids go to school all day. I don't know how they get meals. Kids come out of class at 2:45 in the afternoon. School lets out at 2:45. There's a group of kids that don't go home. They go immediately to the band room. They get their drums, their bugles, you name it, and they go down on the field and they start practicing. So we get practice from from say 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 9 o'clock at night. It's kind of overwhelming. I got really frustrated. I got upset about it. And like I say, the superintendent said he would work with us on this. In the meantime, I really think we need to think about our officers and their ability to make arrests.
Music education is a lifetime skill set. I'm so glad that so many of our young people are participating in such a wonderful enterprise. And you're correct, most of the kids that are involved in that are at the upper end of the grades. And 6:45 in the morning's a little early, but coming from a family that has band kids,
I don't know how the parents put up with it, Dan. Pardon me for interrupting you, but you know, these parents have to escort, or they have to transport their kids to school. They have to transport their kids home. They have to transport them back for band. Then they got to sit there for 3 hours and then take their kids home. It's a lot.
well,
I have one more quick comment. I have no problem at all with football, baseball, basketball, soccer, you name it. Friday nights is my glory night. I really look forward to the kids being out and enjoying it. I don't want to see our kids out on the streets. I don't want to see them messing up here at Northgate Mall. Again, please understand that's
Sure.
not
Have you
my
gone to
problem.
the school board meeting?
Right. Pardon me, sir?
I think the Northwest Local School District has their board meeting next Monday night.
Oh, thank you, because I plan to attend that also.
Okay.
Very good.
Oh, they don't have one next Monday?
Special next week, December the 5th.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for your remarks and bringing that to our attention. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Laura and Lori.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Go ahead, Drew, first, because that's the first event.
Hi, Lauren McMullen. Just real quick from my part, because everyone in Colerain Township knows I can't speak publicly. We are hosting a housing focus group. It will be conducted on the 26th of November, 6 p.m. It's hosted by the Community Building Institute, so you can Google them. They're a institution that works with Xavier, and they are a group of city planners, sociologists, and urban anthropologists. Basically what they're doing is coming and discussing housing, not just in Northbrook and all of Colerain. They will discuss current trends in the housing market, get the residents' perspectives about the housing options we have, and speak with the community about and building inclusive communities. So if you're passionate about housing, want to see some changes, come eat dinner with us at 6 o'clock.
And what time we're at?
So it's at the Southland Baptist Church, an hour before our community meeting. The housing focus group begins at 6, and our community meeting begins at 7. We will feed you dinner.
And afterwards, you're going to come work it off with me, right?
I haven't been there yet, so. No.
We'll be over it'll be over at 9.
At 9.
Right, lots of raffles, so maybe you'll win a prize.
Thank you so much. If you could send Jeff an email with those details, we'll see what he can do to get it posted a little better.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Now
you
it's
so much.
And the other thing was, we wanted to let you know that the community meeting that will be held that night on 11/26, Monday at 7, is our second annual A Greater Northbrook Community Group meeting, celebration. We'd like to invite all of you, as well as the officers who are in our beat, to stop by. And also from Station 25, Chief, we'd like to include them if they have a moment just to pop in for a little bit. The more the merrier. And like Lori said, there will be baskets and raffles and food. The other thing we wanted to mention is that just today we have basically secluded time to have a let's see. It is actually a blood donor from Hawksworth event that will be held on Thursday, 11/29, from 1 o'clock until 7 at Southland Baptist on Springdale Road in honor of Andrew Allen. There will be posters. There will be a posting of a link that you can go and actually schedule the time that you would like to donate blood that day through Hawksworth's website. Hopefully we will have that posted tomorrow. I'm just waiting on receiving that from them. And there'll be flyers and posters and everything else so that we can get as many people there during that time in the gymnasium at the church, where we could have up to 100 people donating blood in his honor. and replacing the transfusions that he's received. So I think that's it. We thank you very much.
Thank you so
I
much.
just have one more thing, and this is me on a personal note. So I just want to ask the board and administrators to give your full support to the Colerain Veterans Memorial. Our community supports this effort and wants the memorial, and we expect to see your support as well. Myself personally, I have many family members who have served in our armed forces, including a son-in-law who is waking up in Afghanistan right now.
Wow.
So I just ask that you give your 100% full support to building this memorial.
Okay, thank you so much. Stephanie Wright? And thank you for staying in the 5-minute range, ladies. Thank you.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, good evening. I do have a few agenda items this evening, but the gentleman has left. Mr. Dunn has left. Maybe Mr. Mills can shine a little light on this. He was talking about the possible development of rental property or apartments at or around the Northgate Mall area. Do you have any idea on a footprint of what that square footage of those apartments would be?
I don't think he got that far in the discussion, did he?
No, and it's tough. This sort of question and answer situation is really difficult. What I'd love to get to is a place where if you have comments about the agenda, you make them to the trustees, and then if you have questions.
I don't know the answer to that, Stephanie.
Great.
I'll take the questions.
Then I would like to know also about this presentation that we did pay for, not out of our township dollars, but it was a grant of $20,000 for this gentleman to come here this evening and share this information with us. Just by a show of hands of people in the galley this evening, I would like to know who could afford to rent an apartment from $1,000 to $1,600 a month.
That probably fits the, you've authenticated the percentages that he described.
Okay, but most of them said they could, but they wouldn't. So I'd like to have that on record. I think that is a total waste of time and money, especially since the mall is thriving. You know, the department stores and everything are just producing left and right over there. So, you know, I don't see why we're spending money on developing an eyesore on the corner of Colerain and Springdale. Whatever. Then I'd like to know if the Get Efficient program that was wonderfully presented this evening, and that is a free service, is that correct, that's offered?
Apparently. I get letters from, well, thank you.
Okay. Is there any compensation of him being here this evening?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Is there?
I mean, it's my job.
Oh, he's paid to be, he's on
Right, but
he's on his own clock right
township
now.
expense.
None
Great.
from the township.
Great. Then I have a question about the radar equipment, radar detectors. Is that a money-making thing for our township to?
No, it is not. I've discussed that with the chief. There'll be no speed ticket writing quotas. It's merely a safety thing. Back earlier this year, we purchased the little units that go on the channel posts that support the stop signs or speed limit signs, and we've developed some data, and we know where we need enforcement. When that comes up in the agenda, you'll find that I'm very clear on we are not running this for revenue-producing purposes. It's just safety.
Okay. And do we have actually the manpower to staff someone sitting in a car on Colerain Avenue reading radar?
I don't know that we're going to do that. I think it's just to have them in mobile units like other departments have.
Okay. There are a few things on the agenda this evening. We're authorizing or asking for authorization for a contract with KZF Design for Colerain Avenue Corridor Study at a cost of up to $96,000. Has the board been prepped on this and ready to make a decision on this evening to vote to spend $96,000 on what we need to do to better Colerain Avenue?
I think
it's in the agenda. It's in the agenda coming up will be
$96,000. Okay. We also have a contract with CalFee for communication plan I was wondering if the board could tell me what that's for?
I'm gonna bring it up.
Okay.
Yeah, give us a minute to scroll through 600 pages. Do you know what page number it is, Stephanie, by chance?
I'm sorry.
Oh, forgive
Yes.
me.
It is page 642 and page 643.
Jeff, have you worked on that? Could you describe that rather than paging through this?
I mean, it's written down in the agenda. It's a communications plan.
So the board knows what that's about?
Yes, I don't want to quote anything, so I bring this up. There is a tremendous amount of pages here. It's got our whole policy book on it. You want to go on with your next question? I'm on
Sure,
about
you're going to have
page.
to look that one up, too. I want to know why the township has entered into an agreement with Experian for services. It has to do with a release of a public record of someone's social security number that's on our employee.
Right, and that was something you had brought to our attention, and I think that's for an employee whose social security number got out. Well, the trustees, upon that vote, might favor protecting that employee because they might be at risk if their number is widely disseminated.
So you're concerned that I would release the employee's social security number?
If it's gotten out, if it's left our personnel files, we don't know.
It could go anywhere.
I can't guarantee where it went, so I don't know where it went. I'm not saying you would disseminate it. It's just if it's not in our personnel files, I can't answer for where it went. So if do you know if it went any further than you?
Oh, I would have no idea.
Did you get it in paper or in electronic form?
Electronic form.
Did you notify the trustees immediately when you got it that?
643.
Okay. Did you notify the trustees immediately when you realized you received something you shouldn't have received?
What does that matter?
That's why we're buying Experian. So
So someone made an error in the township?
potentially, yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Our next speaker is Tom O'Brien. Hello, Tom.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Great.
Back here again on the same subject. I know you guys are getting tired of listening to me.
Impossible.
And I'm getting tired of speaking. But seems like nothing's happening. You've got this document here that if you read it, it says all kinds of good things, but it appears that there's no ramifications for anything except for tall grass. If you have anything other than tall grass, you got up to a year to skate, no problem. No action be taken. It's just the newest situation that I'm involved in is there's a house across the street has a couch and a chair beside the house, outside the house, and a mattress leaning up against the garage door. Been working on this for over a month, and nothing's happening except, well, we're going to have to take that to court. That means, have we done it yet? No, but we're going to have to. It's on the agenda. We're going to have to. But nothing seems to ever happen. I think Chris is overwhelmed, and I think really this is upper management that's not supporting him. Somehow, the minor little thing, you would think we just have somebody come take the stuff away. I don't know. There's a mattress laying out there, shouldn't be. There's a couch and a chair there. They're just waiting for rats to move in. But month after month, nothing happens. It's just frustrating. You bring us up, you go online, you make your reports, nothing happens. You go online, try to follow up, no information online. It all seems to be whatever Hamilton County will do for us, that's what we can do. We can't do anything for ourselves. I don't understand. I started out in April with my original concern, and that hasn't even left house yet to go to the court, which is going to take another 6 months to get through the court. So I don't understand between April and now how it hasn't even left our house to go down to the Hamilton County Court, where it's going to take another 6 months to get back to say, okay, now we're going to have to start the other court, other deal. The guy won't show up for trial, and it'll go on and on and on. It's just a never-ending loop. It just seems like it's a fine document, but it's not worth the paper it's printed on, from my opinion. I mean, it's just frustrating. So I don't know what if anything you guys can do for it.
Well, Tom, in the 11 months that I've been here, I've gone out and personally been involved with a lot of those properties, and I've seen some really bad ones get cleaned up. Right now, we've got one down on Blue Rock Road, north on Blue Rock Road from 275 that's been dragging on for a while. I want to say it was in Housing Court on November 13th, which is today. I don't know the results of that.
When did that start?
I was contacted about it probably back in May, but it's a county thing, and we fed the information to the county, and I guess that's how fast they turn stuff around.
It says Colerain Township, but it
Right.
really should say Hamilton County.
But with respect to the couch and the mattress that are across the street from your house, I don't think we can just invade that property and go grab this stuff. We have to
No.
follow legal process.
Well, they went and talked to the man, okay, and he says, I'm a renter, I don't care. They went and talked to the other guy that owns the place, sent him a registered letter. Then I called him up, well, we're going to give him more time. It looks like they moved it. They're working on it. They moved it from here to there. So we're going to give him another week. Just
I had one over on Dolomar that I got called in on, that a resident called me, and I went over and talked to them, and they apologized and got the stuff out of their yard the next day.
Yeah, that was going to be my question to you. Has anyone reached out to this guy? Because sometimes a little compassion will go a long way. Maybe you can get a couple neighbors together to help move it. Or
his neighbor was the guy that reached out to him, and his neighbor got me involved. But yet...
If you want to give me the address, as I do, I will go look at it.
9898 Laura Linda. And Chris said he's been there twice already. He's going to go back again tomorrow, which would be the third time for him to go back to this residence. And the deal was, originally, you go out and talk to him and you give him a week to take action. It's already been 3 1-week segments and no action taken.
Is 9898, is he combative, or is he just doesn't want to do anything with it, or?
It's a renter, and renters don't care.
Okay.
So really, you're going to have to go to...
I should be able to look at it the next day or two.
Yeah, not everyone's a good neighbor, unfortunately. And that's what we have code enforcement for.
But like I said, just the one from April, I don't know what the deal with that was. We wrote it up on April. We've been talking about it, and it's still in-house. Is there big loops in-house to get down?
Jen, did you know which one he's talking about from April? Are you able to comment on that now or no?
It wasn't a violation.
Oh.
That was the problem.
Okay.
This was the junk vehicle that was not a violation when Chris was out there, and then it fell into violation, then it was no longer in violation. So once they've come into compliance,
Resets.
That's what.
Can we send?
Could I ask what got corrected? Originally, there was flat tires. They're
Flat
still
tires.
flat. I looked at it yesterday.
The flat tires were inflated. The
Well, it
last
must have been
time
when
I-
he came, but whatever. I don't know, but the house is a mess. It's a junk, and I mean, from what I can get, you guys would be happy if every house in Colerain looked like that. It would all meet the regs. So then we need new regs, I guess. I mean,
I will get out and look at 9898 Laura Linda in the next few days, just for my own personal information.
Okay.
And I will contact you. I believe I have your number.
Yep. If not, I'm sure somebody around here does. So.
Thank you.
Okay. And one other question. Chicane. What's going on with chicane?
We just like saying it, really. It's just a fun
I
word.
know. They removed it, but there's still the cameras or whatever they are. They put them back up. Does that mean they're going to reinstall it, or does anybody know?
I would. How about during the administrator's report, if Jeff mentions the status of that?
Okay.
Can you make a note to talk about that during your administrative report, Jeff?
Okay.
What did you think of the chicanes?
I think it slowed things down. It took my parking space, but it
So that's what this is about?
No, it just slowed traffic down. I think it's good for the kids in the neighborhood. I was concerned about them because they do come screeching through there. So
We don't need anybody else getting run over.
no, I don't need nobody getting run over.
Okay, well, Jeff will address that during his administrative report.
And hopefully it won't be back next month.
Okay, and I'll go check out that thing on Laura Linda. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce?
How you doing, Bruce?
Pretty good. Thank you, Board. I'll start out with the War and Peace agenda we had mailed to us. My suggestion is if we have another agenda with 698 pages, that we break this down with agenda items with information that's needed for the agenda, on the agenda email, and then take the other aspects, such as the KZF, the Energy Alliance, and the Colerain policy document is separate, and say, here, you can go to the site and download it. Because trying to cross-reference the information in this agenda was a chore. About the township policy manual, I think the draft looked good and very promising, so I commend everybody for that. So keep it up. I think it's going to be good for all the people in the township who work in the township and the citizens. As a slight aside from several months ago, with the when the township decided not to go with marijuana dispensaries in the
Mike, a little bit more.
Marijuana dispensaries in the township, I think we made the right choice, taking that now FDA is now approving some of these extracts for dispensing in pharmacies, and that was the right way to go. The question I have with Megaland, congratulations on $150,000 grant, but I was looking at page 289, I think, and 298. There seems to be a discrepancy. You're getting $150,000, but there's a matching fund that we or somebody has to come up with. And one place it said $50,000 that we have to come up with, and one said $150,000. So I'm not sure which is the correct, but there's a big difference between $50,000 and $150,000. So somebody needs to find out what the actual number was. My big issue is for tonight is this KZF contract. After looking at that, I to say I was not pleased. And reading from the text is the township would like to create a consistent, appealing, and safe public environment from the city of Cincinnati limits to the Hamilton County boundary to further improve the township. Also wishes to partner with Green Township, Mount Airy Group, etc. I don't agree with the study. I don't want to be part of a continuum from city of Cincinnati to the Butler County, Hamilton County line. I left the city a number of years ago to get away from the city. We've owned property in the township for approximately 40 years and lived here for over 31 years. And we want a township environment with less government oversight and mandated strategies, such as streetscapes, bike paths, walking paths. Hopefully we don't go to the route of streetcars and trolleys. But hey, when you start looking at their proposal, that's we're potentially looking at getting a plan for having all that kind of stuff.
I think they were just highlighting jobs that they've worked on in the past. I don't think anyone's suggesting we're going to get a streetcar in Colerain Township.
But who knows? I mean,
I know.
People go on,
I know that much at least.
Just like with the Northgate Mall stuff, what direction they go and who's going to pay for all this? We were never an urban plan community, and we never will be. We're not going to go to tear everything down and have a Westchester. Like I said last month, the Colerain Township, or Colerain Avenue corridor, you can't put lipstick on a pig. You can beautify it a little bit, but there's only a certain limitation I see actually happening. Spending close to $100,000, and with cost overruns, potentially you're going to get up to $100K. I believe, and I believe a number of the residents would not agree with spending this money. And say you have this plan done. What do you do with it? How do you implement it? You're going to put taxes on there to beautify the Colerain Township corridor, and I know Raj and Greg, this is something you have an idea for, but where are you going to find the money? Are you going to force the people who have businesses along Colerain to comply with your new idea and run these people out of town? I mean, I have concerns about over planning something that probably can't be implemented. And finally, I think we need to be all aware of where the county commissioners would like to go, particularly Todd Pertune. I mean, he really is looking at regional form of government with community conformity. And I don't want to be conformed to the other municipalities in Hamilton County. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. I would disagree with your comment about putting lipstick on a pig. I don't, and I know you're just using that because you've heard it. I know a lot of different business owners along that stretch, and they're wonderful people trying their best to, and it is a little bit disjointed. I remember as a teenager, before 275 was finished at Colerain Avenue, and as soon as that interchange was built out, it just filled up with businesses from Springdale Road up to 275, because I remember when that was all vacant, and so do you. Well, I don't remember that, but I remember when Northgate Mall was opening, because my parents took me up there to look at it. But thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Kathy Moore. And thank you for staying within the time, Bruce.
How you doing, Kathy?
Hello. I'll be as brief as possible. I just had a couple of comments on the personnel policies. On page 412, it says that spousal coverage isn't provided for part-time employees that are eligible for health care. Do we provide health care for part-time employees?
As I stated earlier, I will go through this and read what you have there. I told you at the beginning of this that I have not completely read through the policy book yet.
Oh, okay.
But I'm making a note to go to page 412.
412 under medical insurance.
Okay.
Also the cash payment in lieu of benefits for the $2,600 for opting out of insurance. I think that you should give the employee, official, whoever, the option to do that. If there may be somebody that doesn't want the $2,600 because they don't need it, and you should give them an option of.
Is that around the same page also? Because I will go.
That is on 413.
Okay, I will look at it.
Okay. And then under COBRA, leave of absence, it says loss of coverage for COBRA due to reduction in work hours or failure to return from FMLA. The individual enrolled in COBRA benefits will be required to cover both the employee and employer share. And I guess, that's the way I've always understood COBRA to be, and I just wanted to know, is that any different from what we've been doing, or is that?
I was on COBRA once when I changed jobs, and I paid the full ride on it,
Right.
or a good part of the full ride.
All of it. You should pay all of it, but I'm saying it spells it out in here, and I'm just asking if that's something new, or if that's always been the way.
And I'll find that out if you tell me what page that is. Is that 413, did you say?
413.
Okay.
And then I see we still have the MERP available, but I do not see that we could charge an employee who puts their spouse on that is eligible for coverage with their employee. I brought that up at the last meeting or
Right.
whenever it was, and I think, we're very gracious at giving the employees a lot of things, and I think this is typical of businesses now that they do have some type of cost if we are insuring a spouse that could
Right.
have coverage somewhere else. On the vacation leave, it uses the word, this is on page 416, and it says that they receive annual vacation at the following accrual rates. But then it shows that they just get 10 days. They're not accruing. So it says from 0 to 5 years, you get 10 days. And if you accrue, you would not get 2 weeks vacation the day after you start your employment. So the township used to do the accrual just as they do the sick time. And then I know Jim Rowan changed that for his benefit. So I would wonder why the township wouldn't go back to an accrual for vacation. And then you could avoid also the large payout when a person
Right, and I
leaves.
believe that the purpose of vacation is to go rest your mind, body, and soul, and you should either use it or not use it. I'm only one of the three of us. That's another reason I want to go through this and read it and have the policies reflect at least one-third of
Do you think somebody should
it.
be eligible for 2 weeks vacation the day after they start working here?
And no, I don't think so, but once again, I need to go read it.
All right, just
Kathy,
take a look
I
at it.
haven't
let
read
me
it.
answer it, Danny. Dan, that's a question I'm going to ask on the
Okay.
accrual. When it comes to the policy discussions, when the person start the day, is what they put on 2 weeks automatically, the day. It's usually they accrue by the pay period of
Just
4.6.
as the sick time is.
Yeah. So that's a discussion I'll ask on the policy time. I think that's not fair. When the person starts, automatically the day of the beginning, give them 2 weeks.
Right, okay.
That's not good.
Okay, also on page 419, pay for unused credit upon separation. Throughout the paragraph, it talks about severance. And I don't think severance is the right word in that paragraph. If a person retires and is rehired, the township should have a public hearing on that, which it does state in the OPERS rules, that you have a public hearing for input on that. And also, it doesn't say that if a person is rehired, that it says their sick time goes back to 0, but it doesn't say anything about vacation. So
That's something else that we should look at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and it doesn't say anything about them taking a pay cut. It used to be if you were rehired, you took a 20% pay cut in order to be rehired so that the township was saving money, even though you were going to
So
continue.
was there rehires when you were here? Is that how it was done? Okay.
Bruce McLean and Kevin, he was one of a rehire. So that's just something that you need to look at. And then my other stuff is non-agenda, so thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. Our next speaker is Keith Miller. Hi, Keith.
How you doing, Keith?
Hello, Township. I hear all the agenda tonight and what it was, and let's talk about like the agenda we on our policy procedure stuff is. How come we always got a abatement on there? We always looking to abate somebody, put them out their property. That's part of our planning and zoning. It says right there. Should have brought it up for me so I could have read it to you.
You mean to call out certain properties?
Right, you're calling out properties, put them out like you did 7580 Colerain Avenue. You put them out on your abatement, on stuff like, police calls. And I looked at police calls, I looked at them. I can't believe Chuck E. Cheese has as many police calls they got. This is for kids to eat. And they got police calls, And we ain't putting them out. And they're probably one of the worst. And even Kentucky Fried Chicken had police calls. I mean, so we nitpick who we want to put out? Is that just part of the way we do it up here now? Or been doing it, apparently. And as for I want to bring up the meeting the other day at the EPA meeting. You was there, both of you was there, or you two was there.
You mean over at the senior center?
Right. Don't we need cameras over there or something so that whole meeting should have been broadcast to everybody in the township?
We were letting the EPA use our building to have that meeting. I guess we could move it over here, but I don't know if they expected what type of crowd they would have.
Well, I know they expect a big crowd, but they don't invite a big crowd, so there is a difference there. There was that meeting was kept so hushed up, like the special meetings here where, where they want to push somebody out, we keep the meetings quiet. We tell Jenny Key, she puts it in the paper at 4 o'clock for the 7 o'clock meeting, That's not really telling the public anything, It's just keeping everybody. Everybody's like this, we ain't allowed to see anything. It's all blinders on, I just want to see things change for the people. As for the meeting over here, we need a portable system we could put up over there and set up and Wi-Fi to this building so it'll go out for the whole township to see. That meeting was very important to this township.
Right. And I'd be in favor of letting them use these chambers because we're already wired up with microphones and cameras.
That'd be great. They should have come in here where, It did need to be seen by everybody.
Are you saying we can do that
And
without
better
Waycross?
advertisement for stuff.
No, we have a contract with Waycross. I mean, this room is set up.
Yeah, but if
to do
like
that.
if
The senior
Waycross wasn't
center is
available
not.
or something, like they didn't have somebody available, could we still film it? Is that what you're saying?
I would rather have it in here and have Waycross shoot it.
No,
and
I'm saying if
let
we
people
were
watch it.
having it in here and Waycross wasn't available for whatever reason, maybe they were understaffed or something, then could we still use the in-house recording system?
I
for that?
believe so. No? We'll figure that out. Okay,
Yeah.
point taken. During my public information, my trustee report tonight, I'm going to mention that Rumpke has a draft issuance of an air permit.
Right.
And I
Well,
just got that email like Thursday or someday last week, that's going to come up.
Or you talk about the Northgate Mall stuff here, I done suggest, the mall should be turning into like a medical mall. You got an aging community around here, my age now, I go to the doctor, he wants to send me to this one and that one. It'd be nice if that was all in one place, I think that would make better sense for this community than a housing. Why would, for one thing, he didn't talk about all that stuff is, how many of them ones he talked about were less than 30 seconds from the dump, 30 seconds from the dump, or we're covered with a blanket of, what do you want to call it? Air pollution, actually, is what it is. Cover up the stench. See, none of them studies involve 30 seconds from a dump, all that stuff they study. But, that's why I'm going to let it at right now. And I thank yous.
Thank you. Jim Acton?
At Cure You, is that what you said?
Hear
Oh, hear you.
I think I got a message from Chip that everything's working fine.
You sure?
Yes. And we've made some adjustments to that microphone since last week, and if you just get right next to it, everybody out there in TV land will be able to hear you, Jim.
Dan, I'll ask you. School board meetings, you didn't have this in front of you, but they can hear you, and you can hear it on Waycross.
They have a tabletop microphone like we have up here on at the school board.
Well, December the 5th, I'm going to be there, and the one that was in the podium the last time I was there was not one of these things that's got a paper clip on it, a piece of Band-Aid tape and everything.
No, that's a little device to stop the popping noises and that's a off-the-shelf device. It's just that's what it's held on with a tie right now.
I believe you.
That's all it took. He believed you. little duct tape and a.
But if I go home and turn in tomorrow and cannot even hear Kathy or Keith or you guys speak, you're going to get a call from me.
I enjoy all of our conversations immensely, Jim.
I know you do. I was going to do something this evening, but I think I'll deter from it because of the late hour and all that. But I'd like to thank Heather, Raj, and Dan for attending the memorial service we had Sunday up at the corner. The true, and I say true, Veterans Memorial Gateway to Colerain Township. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I understand your email from you, Greg, about your mother's birthday, and I appreciate that too. I wouldn't miss
Sorry,
my
I missed it.
mother's birthday either.
Sorry I missed it, but I'm glad that we're well represented. I appreciate that.
I wanted to discuss about some studies that were going tonight, and one of them is the beautification of Colerain Avenue. I don't know how many of you were around or remember when Mr. Rowan back in 5 years ago, 6 years ago, wanted to spend $25,000 for a study. Dan Malloy came along and he had $28,000 a couple years ago. We paid for it. What do we get out of it? Nothing. Nothing. Isn't this the same company that gave us a presentation a couple years ago?
I don't recall. Jeff, do you remember if that was the same company from a couple years ago?
I don't think Jeff was around at that time. I don't think.
Heather, do you remember by chance? trying to think who all was around then.
I'm not certain.
Yeah.
Well,
We can
okay.
figure it out though.
Well, we'll go on. But they talked about Colerain Avenue too. Colerain Avenue is a state highway. Why should I, as a taxpayer, pay to have a study done on this highway? Beautification of it. What's wrong with the state? Raj, he gets people down here from the county. I'm surprised the county comes down, Raj. It's a state highway. I mean, why should I pick out of our budget $98,000 for a study that runs through next year? Nothing's going to happen until 2020. By 2020, we're going to probably have 2 or 3 more levies. Saying taxpayers, I want money. Who's going to pay for this thing? Where's the money coming from? Me, the taxpayer. You guys, taxpayers. Everybody in this room, taxpayers. Let the state do their work, renew Colerain.
I wish they would. I wish they would.
Put pressure on them, Greg.
I wish they'd
I'm
listen.
going to explain to you in a few minutes in my report what I'm working on.
Let's talk about it now, Raj.
Okay.
Back and forth.
I want to keep the public presentation going, so Raj will discuss it during his report.
Me, please?
Please?
Is there somebody after me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll end my talk here real quick like that. We went through 2 studies already, still no results. You know, I can remember when the Shell station down here was supposed to be harassed or raised and something else put in there. Pippin and Compton Road was supposed to be something put in there. Well, we got God bless the kid, I guess he's trying to make some business down there, but that looks like a junk shop down there to me. Now we got another study for $98,000. Study goes all next year. 2020, they might come back and say, we need $5 million to complete this project. We don't have $5 million. Come on, let's get with it. You're going to come to me and say, Jim, I never need another 3% of your income taken out. Same 3% that Social Security is giving me this year. I only get 1.5% of it because of insurance and all that. I think before something like this ever gets approved, it should go before the voters and let the voters decide if they want to spend $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 million on something that the state owns, Colerain Township does not own. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Kerry Davis.
How you doing, Carrie?
What he said, I think there's so much low-hanging fruit in this community that we kind of get ahead of ourselves
Microphone.
and are spending a lot of money on studies that are too futuristic when we can't deal with the low-hanging fruit. So I do agree with him. Also, on the issue of with what Kathy and Stephanie bring forward, I had the opportunity during this campaign of mine to go and sit in on a lot of trustee meetings, you know, outside Colerain Township. And one thing, and I've been on their websites, I saw and I think would really help our community is if, like, when we post this report about the policy, that we have a means of communication. Kathy and Stephanie both have brought up many things that they are absolutely correct on that we need to address, and I think we would save ourselves a lot of time and also encourage more input from the broader community if we utilized what I think the city of Harrison uses, where you can put your complaints and your questions to them, because I don't think it's really effective for you gentlemen or Mr. Mills or
the chief, to be trying to thumb through papers and find answers on the spur of the moment. I don't think it's fair to them or yourselves, and I think this would be a good way of facilitating the sharing of information, and as long as it's moderated, for God's sake, just moderate that thing. But that was one thing I observed in another township. I'm just sharing, I'm just blabbering about the yard and the zoning issues. I think I mentioned this before, that the county sheriff's office has started and assigned an officer who they have taken civil offenses and turned them into criminal offenses. And they have an officer that just does those kind of things, and it gets them into court within a week or so. And they go to court, and the judge says, I'm going to give you to Friday to fix it. And it expedites the process. And I would think that might be a really good thing for us to look into, even if we can't afford it ourselves. Maybe we can contract that sheriff's deputy, since she's been specially trained in the field, environmental hazards and stuff, and use her as a way of seeing if this would work for us before we sink a lot of money into it. It was just a thought. I'm mad about the mega land. What was it, 7 months ago I came to you all?
Recycling dollars, yeah.
And I proposed a program. Every one of you said privately and publicly that you thought it was a great idea, and you promised you would get back with me within a month. I think what I'm experiencing in that regard, a lot of people are experiencing in the community. We're not getting real answers. And again, I'm saying maybe this website would help serve that. And so you get a real answer, and it's not a phone call where nobody else heard it, but it's right there in print. But I proposed that program, visiting the townships. I realized we are in the township paying $4 more on our contract rate than townships without recycling. And so we are actually paying for that on top of earning you money through our efforts. So I'm really kind of angry that you guys are putting it in your report and you haven't even done the consideration of giving me an answer yet.
It's my understanding that we could collect that money from the recycling dollars. And I'll let Jeff address that during his administrative report. Okay. You can make a note of that.
The bigger picture on that, sir, is that it's the lack of responsiveness. And I think we need to work on that so people feel, because I've been kind of stirring for months, a little angry and hurt, and that nobody would even answer my question, yes or no. You know, there was also another example of something I looked into in regards to the beautification project, and I talked about creating a rec corridor, Colerain Avenue, as a rec corridor, meaning retail, entertainment, and commercial, and converting Blue Rock Road into our residential corridor, which would have signs and stuff that point to how to get to different districts, communities in our neighborhood. And it is disturbing as a citizen when you put time into looking into stuff and nobody really even shows you the courtesy of giving you an honest answer, even if the answer sometimes is no and you don't like it. So,
excuse me, Carrie. Waycross is down.
I just got a message from Tony that Tony says that everybody can hear just fine.
I just got a message from Debbie Craven saying that she could hear Jim acting loud and clear. So I don't know if Waycross is down. Can you get it back up, please?
I've got a message here that says we're hearing everyone fine, Dan.
Who's yours from?
Tony.
They didn't want to hear from me anyway.
Well, anyway, let's stay on track. But thank you for pointing that out. I've got conflicting information to that. So.
Yeah. But now they're aware, so hopefully they're on it.
Okay. Was there anything else, Carrie?
There was one other thing.
Okay.
There was the death of a veteran in the community this week, and I thought, and I guess I'm going to buy it, but I thought one way we could help further and show a little investment into the Colerain Veterans Memorial would be when we do have a death in our community of a veteran, if they don't already have a brick, maybe the township could splurge the $50 and that be a donation to the family and the veteran upon their death if they haven't already gotten one. And it's a very small investment, but I think it would create a better alliance. I just would think that would be a
Carrie, I'll do that. I'll donate for that.
Well, I don't mind doing it at all.
No, I'll donate.
But I just thought it would be something community-wise to be supportive of our veterans. But that's all I got to say. Well, and I will say, since I'm up here, thank you all for entertaining me the last 7-8 months. It was a lot of work. It was very, very hard. And you guys set the bar very high on expectations of what you should know and you shouldn't know. And I promise to continue to work hard on behalf of the community. And thank you for those who did support and even those who didn't and made me raise my game up.
Yeah, amen.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Carrie. That is the request to speak that I've had, and we will move on to our next item, which is administrative reports. Mr. Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Unger. We'll start the administrative reports today with Chief Cook and the Fire Department.
Good evening, Board. The first item I'd like to report is the emergency incident activity for the month of October. There were 709 EMS incidents in the township and 149 fire incidents and 20 responses into the Springfield Township contract area of Pleasant Run Farms. The reported fire loss was approximately $33,958 for the month. Second item is on November the 1st, the department graduated 15 participants from its 31st Citizens Fire Academy class. The 10-week academy provided classroom and practical insight to the services provided to the community by the fire department. I extend my congratulations publicly to the graduates of the academy. Also on November the 1st, the department initiated its Safe Station program. In collaboration with the Addiction Services Council of Cincinnati, the program is an extension of the Quick Response Team as it provides an additional means to connect individuals suffering from substance abuse disorder with recovery resources within a safe and non-judgmental environment. All 5 fire stations within the township will accept individuals who are willingly seeking opportunities to be connected with recovery resources as walk-in patients for the purpose of initiating the recovery process. This service is made available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To date, there have been 2 people that have used the Safe Station program to seek assistance. Both have resulted in success in connecting with resources needed to initiate treatment. Because of the collaborative efforts of the Colerain Police Department, the Addiction Services Council, the Department of Fire and EMS has experienced a 62% reduction in overdose responses this year. This is compared to the same period in 2017. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next, we have Chief Mark Denny from the Police Department.
Good evening, Board. Usually I give you my activity report. However, we are day 18 into a failure of our records management system. You may have seen something on the news about that. We are working closely with the vendor to get that fixed and up and running. We do have a meeting on Thursday at another vendor to take over that service, so we are moving forward and we'll ensure that doesn't happen again. But right now our system is down and we are dealing with that.
Can I ask if they'll prorate that service or whatever the fee is involved with that?
The day after it went out, I actually got their bill for the next year.
Oh,
so
nice.
They're gonna
Glad I
it's going to be 100% prorated.
That's a pretty good proration.
So, yeah, you burned us once and we'll learn from that, but we're going to
That's a combined system that covers a lot of different townships and municipalities.
20 agencies in Hamilton County that are on
Right,
this.
yeah, I've read about that in the media.
We're probably 3,000 or 4,000 records down now.
Wow.
We're going to have to get back into that system, so I apologize for not having that
I was up
information.
here Sunday and talked to your person on duty, and we are keeping the records, but they're all manual right now.
They've done a great job
yes, they have.
working around this, but yeah, it's going to be difficult to get all that back in. Saturday from 10 to 2, we're having an open house at the police department. We'll have self-defense seminars. Our use of force simulator will be up here. People can use that. Tours of the PD, just a bunch of different stations for you to learn about what we do. Everybody's welcome. We'll feed you if you come up. Coffee with the Chiefs this Friday is at Frank's Diner. And this afternoon we put out a press release announcing our package delivery service for the 3rd year, where our residents could have packages delivered to the police department to avoid leaving them on your front porch where there's theft issues.
Do you recall in the past few years, because I remember approving that, how many packages we would have delivered, just out of curiosity? I feel like a decent amount of people use the service.
First year it was slower, but the last 2...
We did it halfway through.
Yes. I had probably 150 to 200 in my office.
Wow.
Stacked up. So we're going to have to figure something else out other than that.
Yeah, do we have the space?
It's great.
Use the property room.
We didn't take any reports for thefts from porches, which is fantastic. So we'll do that again.
Thank you, Chief. Next, we have Mrs. LeCount with the Planning Department.
Thank you. One thing that Chief Denny did not mention, he let me have all the glory here, is that the zoning department is working with the police department to follow up on those case pieces that we're getting from housing court so that we can find an appropriate strategy to follow up when property owners fail to appear in court. I know that's becoming a bigger issue. The more cases we take into housing court, there are times when property owners don't show up for their court cases. So we are working very closely with the police department, making sure that we follow up to the best of our abilities before taking any further legal action on those particular properties. The planning department is currently conducting interviews for the volunteer boards, for those that we haven't interviewed in the past, and we intend to have a recommendation to this board at your December meeting for the 2019 appointments. As Kevin Tolan from the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance noted, we do have a draft of the energy plan in-house right now. We are currently working with OKI to add a few more details before we bring that for you to take a look at. A couple of enforcement numbers from October for you. We logged in 115 violations, so we're still keeping pretty busy into October. We've closed 125 over the month of October, but we have some work to do by the end of the year to make sure that our records are all cleaned up. So we will be taking a much closer look at those numbers before the end of the year. And we issued 56 permits in the month of October, so we're actually at 95% compared to last year's total of 415.
Can I ask, is Tom Bosarge still helping out or getting caught up? Or
Tom is not with us right now in the planning department. I believe that he will be back sometime March or April of next year.
So that's our seasonal help is kind of gone for the year. Do you see the need to try to get him on a couple more months to keep getting? I mean, obviously it'd be wonderful to get to a point where we're proactive versus being reactive, but it sounds to me like we're still kind of.
In some cases, we're able to be proactive. For the most part, we are reactive and based on complaints. We have, particularly during the budget discussions, talked about expanding some of those hours for Tom next year. So we do intend, I have some more hours budgeted.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
We'll be able to use him as a part-time seasonal for, I believe, roughly 6 or 7 months next year.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeCount. Next, we have Kevin Schwartzoff with the Public Services Department.
Thank you, Jeff. I just have 2 items. I'll give the board kind of an update on Recycle Day. We had 809 vehicles come through that day. We had 5.5 tons of metal and steel, 3.15 tons of tires, a half ton of empty oil containers and 600 gallons of oil, a half ton of cardboard recycling, 6 tons of wood chips and yard waste, 56 Freon units, CRT TVs, we had 2,500 pounds, flat screen TVs, 398 pounds, and miscellaneous electric, we had 6,212 pounds. Just an update on the shelter rentals for 2018. Over the 20-week period when we rent shelters, we averaged 15 rentals a weekend. So we have about 311 shelters. We estimate that served probably around 19,000 people.
Awesome. That's one of the few things that were profitable on our shelter rentals. I would certainly be open-minded to looking into adding shelters for rentals at like Work Park. That's kind of a nice little neighborhood park right there. I think that's potential. I mean, obviously no restrooms there doesn't help except for, we do use portalets though, correct? I'm not crazy.
Yeah, in the parks where we don't have restrooms and running water, we don't rent shelters near as often as where we have those facilities available.
Yeah. So I think it's something worth looking into, you know, especially obviously the demand's there. It's one of the few things that we have that's profitable. So, you know, from my standpoint, I'm all about, you know, more shelters at some of our, you know, potential locations.
Thank you, Greg.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Schwartzoff. Next, we have Assistant Administrator Jeff Bach.
So first, I'd like to apologize for my tardiness. I was over at our community center where
just a couple hours ago, the county commissioners were having a budget hearing on some of their proposals for 2019, one of which is an increase to our 911 detail rate. So they have on the table a proposed $2 increase to every single call that our 911 call center receives on behalf of either our fire or EMS. Oh, $3, sorry, $3. So I was there to speak on behalf of Colerain Township that we are naturally not in favor of that. That directly impacts our ability to fund much needed capital items as well as to keep ourselves as fiscally prudent as we can for the future. So I apologize for my absence, but also wanted to speak to that. I know Jeff has also spoken to the commissioners at a separate meeting, voicing the same sorts of concerns on behalf of our residents in our township. In addition to that, I did want to make note that we did receive 4 responses to the RFP for legal services. We are in process of reviewing those with the trustees, and there should be hopefully more to come as things progress. And then finally, our website is in sort of the final phases of getting rid of the old content that is out there that is out of date. So certainly if any resident, any trustee, anyone in the audience sees anything that they view as out of date that needs to be updated, please let me know as soon as possible. We're going through page by page and trying to find every single detail that we think either needs to be updated and updating it, or items that are out there that no longer need to be included because they're not relevant anymore. So that is it for my report.
I was hoping for some good news on the 911 calls. When's that getting voted on again?
The county commissioners process may take all the way to the end of December. It really just depends on when they vote on their final budget as to what they will do.
Let's be a little proactive on that if we can. I'd love to. I know Dan, when he was here, he was looking into potential call center and a potential call center. Oh, Jim, stop. But yeah, I would certainly, I wouldn't mind revisiting that and seeing if there's something in the market that's changed or whatever that maybe makes it. I mean, $3. That's I don't even want to think how much that would add to her. I mean, we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, maybe that's something to revisit.
321 cops for all non-emergency calls.
Absolutely.
Every one of those. If it's emergency, please call 911. But how much is it for each call then? The new rate will be $18 a call.
Yep.
So
times how many calls? I'm putting you on the spot now.
Well, I don't know the answer to that. So don't put it on the spot.
Okay,
Jeff, continue on.
Very good. For my administrative report, just wanted to tell everybody we had a great month of October into November. I think it's been really clear that 2018 was the year of transparency. We had 6 transparency initiatives that we executed and are being in different phases of rolling out. I think that one of the reasons why our book is so big is because we want to make sure that all of the information that we have is available to those that need it. And so it's a 700-page agenda today. That way you know about things like the Experian and the CalFE communications plan. Nobody's hiding anything. We're getting it out, everything that we can possibly think of to get to you, we are. 2019 is going to have themes also. We had our strategic planning retreat several months ago. We invited the trustees individually, and the themes that developed in our conversations with them are engagement and beautification. So when in December we come to you all with our 2019 strategic plan and budget, you're going to see that there are themes revolving around engagement with the community and beautification of our community. And we're getting a head start on that this month with the KZF proposal. The trustees, you've heard them every month talk about how important it is to beautify Colerain Avenue. And so we'll get a chance to talk more about that proposal, but this is the first step to prepare us. And the reason we're starting now is so that we can have a project ready for a grant application in March for OKI. Engagement and beautification. So next year we're going to be talking a lot about those 2 words. Keep those in mind. And next month we'll be talking about it a lot also as we roll out the strategic plan and budget. This year, we have had 4 separate audits. Different audit agencies have turned our organization inside out and upside down, and I'm so proud of the work that our group has done in providing the township, its residents and businesses with high quality services, all of which that are above board. And in the next couple of weeks, we should be getting the results of two big audits, the biennial township audit and the CIC audit. And so keep your ear to the ground. Those will be rolled out soon. Suffice to say, you guys are in good shape. The township's doing very well. To get back to a couple of the comments that were made in citizens' address, the chicane update, Mr. O'Brien. So the way that process worked was we did a study before we did the chicane intervention, confirmed that yes, indeed, there were lots of speeders on that stretch of Laura Linda, and this is a process that I want to replicate in other areas of the township. So we identified a problem. We thought about different solutions to that problem, one of which was this chicane idea, and we came up with a lighter, faster, cheaper way to test an idea for reducing speed. And we did that by purchasing, I don't know, $200 worth of straw and putting some signs out and making an S-shaped pattern in the road so that cars would have to slow down to navigate that traffic pattern. We are currently reviewing the speed data right now, and we're continuing to track speeds to see what changed after we removed the chicane. And then the conversation revolves around, did it work? 1. 2, did the residents like it? And 3, how much does it cost to make permanent? So that's the sort of iterative process that we're going through to figure out if those things are going to be permanent, and we'll have those conversations and dialogues in this room in the coming months. But I really love that testing of a new idea in a lighter, faster, cheaper way. I think that's what innovation is in local government, and I think that we should do more of it in all of our departments. So really excited about that test. As it relates to Megaland, big news this month, we got $150,000. Kevin Schwartzoff wrote a great grant application. We got $150,000. The project doesn't just cost $150,000 though. We have budgeted $350,000 for the total project cost. So $150 comes from the state, $50 we're trying to get from the business community, and then the balance of that is $150. So that's where those three numbers came from, Carrie. So that $150 that comes from the township, if there is an opportunity to purchase 100% recycled content parts for that project, we will absolutely use the recycled dollars. And I think that was a great idea that you brought to us, Carrie. So thanks for that. And with that, that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Our next item is trustees' report. At this point, at 9:10 in the evening, I'm willing to put my comments off till later in the meeting so we can get through our agenda. Greg is too. Did you want to speak now, Raj, or do you want?
I'll go and speak now.
Okay, go ahead, and then Greg
quick,
and I will later.
Too long. Bruce, I met with the ODOT, the representative from the district from the Paddock Road. 2 other people. They're going to put once a month. ODOT going to send their people to clean up Colerain Avenue and also the median, the vegetation. Actually, ODOT hired a company. You probably see them on the highways picking up the litters, and they're going to use their people. They're going to spend their money, and they're going to put in. I think. At least they definitely will do once a month, but they try to do twice a month. It depends. But they're going to do it. They're going to start the project. So it starts all the Colerain Avenue. I'm going to say this report earlier, which the discussion will come on that other thing about the study. I contacted the ODOT, the director himself, the regional director. Also spoke with the county engineer, and they are in the favor of creating a small task force, which consists of ODOT, and the county engineer, our director, public work director, and probably a couple business people, prominent business people, and a couple residents create a task force. They will do this. How ODOT can bring in the money to help two parts. The one is the beautification is not primarily they spend money on, but the operability. That's how they can enlarge the Colerain avenues, stop the traffic, accidents. They already sent the report to me, what the plans are. But on this project, they were willing to participate to form a task force and create a plan. And again, I will discuss about this when that motion comes for the study. But this is the initial thing they recommend that we should do and how we can improve the Colerain Avenue. Again, in Greg's and mine's, our arts in the beautification project, but this is a way you create the task force, make a recommendation, but you can use them in the next term. So how this what the task force is going to recommend, use the further study, but mostly they will find out the funding resource and the grants and everything. They will explore all these possibilities. That's the thing that we'll start doing this very soon. And again, the gentleman here talked about this speeding up the tall grass things. I met with the Judge Bouchard, also more possibilities of speeding up that, putting in the docket. Also the possibility, I spoke with the court administrator, maybe bring in that court here and, they're looking into the funding, how they can do that. I like the idea, Jenna said, working with the police department, when they issue the KPS, and the police officer actually go knock on the door, that gives you a lot of fear on the people who try to take care of the problem. These are things I like to address today. Thanks.
Thank you, Raj.
I'm going to go ahead and knock mine out real quick. Just I was willing to wait, but it's quick anyway, and I know it's getting late and people will start leaving. Alan already left. I agree, 6:30 a.m. is too early for bands to be practicing. It's just early. I live right across the street from the high school myself, just on the other side. I guess I just don't hear them for whatever reason, but it's still too early. Laura and Lori, thanks for the invite to your event. 1 to 7 Southland Baptist for the Hawksworth Blood Drive, and then we've also got another one I'll talk about later in my actual trustee report. Hopefully Chris Green can give us an update on the Veterans Memorial. I don't know where that got left off at, but obviously we want to support it. We just need more updates, more information. Stephanie was commenting on the mall presentation. I guess I would just say try not to overthink this, because no matter how well something is doing or thriving or whatever term you want to use, there's always room for improvement. And this was a great step forward, and it didn't cost us anything, so it's a win-win all the way around. Tom looks like he's left as well. Sounds like Chris is a little overwhelmed with being proactive versus reactive, so we'll keep fighting that. Bruce, the thing we're voting on later is really the first step in this beautification thing, which you're going to be hearing a lot more about. And, I know we keep saying business, 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 but the reality is, and I tell people this all the time, it's no different from if you're doing a bicep curl. It doesn't just work out your bicep, it works your shoulder, triceps, deltoid, wrist, shoulder, right? Forearm. That's the same thing this beautification does. I guarantee you we're going to see decreases in crime. We're going to see better businesses. We're going to see housing values, shoot up. It's going to help everything as a whole. So I'll get more to that and on Jim's comment in a second here. But let's see here. Kathy, she was asking about, has anyone used their 2-week vacation the day they started? Does that ever happen? Because I would say that's an employee we made. I agree that that shouldn't be happening. But if it did happen, then we've got a bigger problem, a more recognizable problem. So maybe it's a good thing we have that, because we can weed out right away who the bad employees are. There's some optimism for you. So anyway, I do want to thank you. Kathy's got a lot of experience on this and looking at all of our policies. I know it was a lot to read, and I know you always do a thorough job when it comes to that. So thank you for taking the time and giving us the suggestions. And I watched Dan write down every single page number, so I have no doubt in my mind he'll help you out with that as well. Keith's still here. Legally, we have to give 24-hour notices for our meetings, but as far as medical offices go in the mall or any area, I'm all about that. I mean, when Green Township landed that right off the highway, the hospital, I mean, holy moly, what a boost. You know what I mean? I would have loved to have had that. So, sometimes those things are out of our control. If we could pick and choose every business that came here, we would probably pick and choose different businesses at times, but the ones we do have, we want to see thrive. So we'll do our best to make sure that they do. Let's see here. Jim Acton, the question of the year, why doesn't ODOT pay for the Colerain beautification? I wish they would. I absolutely wish they would. At the end of the day, the harsh reality is if we don't, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I'm not okay with living another 10, 15, 20 years the way we have the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Because the reality is, had we done these studies and some of this beautification stuff 15, 20, 30 years ago, I mean, some of it might be needing replaced by now, but it would have cost a lot less. That study today is a lot more expensive than what it was, 20 years ago. And it's not just a one-year study. This is something that you base your future on, essentially. And I'll get back to that point in a minute on Carrie's question, but I'm trying to go in order here. Actually, Carrie was the next one. So, and Debbie did say she could hear you loud and clear through the microphone. Carrie had made a comment about low-hanging fruit, which is, I think Jim and I would both agree, we have a ton of low-hanging fruit, which like the bridge that we talk about quite often. And the reality is, this study is going to help us knock out these low-hanging pieces of fruit, because at the end of the day, we can piecemeal it like we've done for eternity, or we can actually put some sort of a proposal together and do it so that we're doing the right fonts, the right colors, the right brick, the right everything, so there's some uniformity there, because there hasn't been for so long. I mean, I can give you a million examples of, the bridges. One has no fencing, one has green fencing, one has black fencing, one has an old logo, one has a new logo, one has no logo. I mean, we've got to clean up those issues, and that may sound like low-hanging fruit, and I actually think it is low-hanging fruit. But ultimately, I'm willing to take the time that it takes to make sure we do it right this time around, because Jim's absolutely right, it's going to cost money. None of us want to put on a levy to do any of this stuff, but we do want to be wise in our investments, and we've been very lucky these last few years we've got some bond debt that's retiring, we've got some Rumpke things that have come down the pipeline with the vacation of Hughes Road, so we've got some avenues here, and as a community, we're thriving. We're a $1 billion community. I mean, how many people do you know live in a $1 billion community? Not many. I think the only other one was Anderson. Does anybody know that for a fact? I think it was Anderson. I mean, that's amazing. Be proud that you live in a $1 billion community, despite a lot of things being neglected that we can for sure improve. And it sounds, like the board is supporting this. And, who doesn't want to live in a better area, a nicer area, a cleaner area with, nicer this and better that. So this is the first step. And I agree, when you hear these numbers up front, when you hear $95,000 for a study or $100,000 here or there, that's scary. I get it. But at the end of the day, it's a necessary evil. You know what I mean? It's a process. It's a formality we got to go through. And sometimes you got to bite the bullet for the greater good. And ultimately, this survey, I promise you, it sounds hard right now, but it's going to pay for itself over time. We just have to stay positive on that. We really do. So anyway, also Carrie, she had a wonderful suggestion of getting recycling or allocating recycling dollars specifically for one thing. And as much as I love the idea of doing that, you kind of tie your hands when you do that, because if you're allocating or if you're making it just for one thing, then you can't use it for other things. And the way that things change and times and all that kind of stuff, I didn't want to tie our hands. But ultimately, your suggestions weren't for nothing. They got us talking. We're still talking about them, and we'll continue to talk about them. So keep those ideas coming. I thought they were great ideas. So also on that, I wanted to congratulate you on running. Running for office is not easy. I think at least the four of us know what it's like. It's not always fun. And it's a learning experience. I guarantee you made new friends through this process. I guarantee you learned a lot. And, you challenged people to bring out the best in themselves as well. Your opponent, and we're going to hold him to this, at the school ribbon cutting, he said he was going to get us some playground money. So hopefully that happens. But as of right now, I haven't heard anything more on it. But nonetheless, I thank you. Thank you for running. It's not easy. Now, let me get to my trustee report. I hope everyone had a happy Veterans Day. I personally want to thank Jim Acton for helping put together services for our community. Sometimes we rely on residents for going the extra mile, and Jim and I'm sure a team of other volunteers exemplify that, and we do sincerely appreciate that. I also hope everyone had a safe Halloween as well. Every year, someone asks us last minute to change trick-or-treating. It happens every year. By law, we have to give 24-hour notice before we can call a meeting like the one you're at right now. I believe it was only like 4 out of the hundreds of local communities changed their time. So they were all very small communities. People forget sometimes that we're the largest township in Ohio. It's not easy to change something last minute, whether it's trick-or-treating or anything else for that matter. But you know, unlike most communities, we're fortunate to have a mall that does indoor trick-or-treating, and it was a huge success. So you always have an alternative option for Halloween here in Colerain. Also, next year, if you're a senior or someone that lives in an area that doesn't get trick-or-treaters or in a condo or something like that, just message me. We would be more than happy to have you hand out candy at the mall. It's a nice, dry, safe environment. And it's like, I think it's good for the soul. I mean, the kids are so cute. It's so much fun. If you're interested in that, see me around August or September or October of next year, and we'll make it happen. I want to thank, I'm assuming, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming this is from Lori. Is this from you, right? This is, okay, thank you so much. That's our friend Rhonda. She's an unbelievable person in our community. That's we've all kind of followed her journey, and she had, if I'm not mistaken, her last round of chemo. Is that correct? And so, yeah, so awesome things. It's amazing hearing that. And she, if you haven't met her, you got to meet her. She's the sweetest thing, and she's always upbeat. And I had bought a T-shirt. She gave me the T-shirt, so thank you for that. Let's see here. Also, I had posted on Facebook earlier if there was anyone that had an event that they wanted me to speak of, or congratulations or something like that. And although I have it clearly typed in my trustee report, before I posted that, I have to tell you there were a ton of people that came to me and said, Greg, make sure you congratulate Laura Dakin for accepting the Anders Award for Community Service in Ohio. So thank you. She's so humble. She won't even clap for herself, but we'll do it for you. Thank you, Laura. December 13th, Kroger is supposed to grand open. We have not gotten, to my knowledge, any information on a ribbon cutting. Obviously, we would love to be part of that if you're out there watching Kroger. I saw that the gas pumps are being installed, so we'll get to use those fuel points that I get so many complaints about having to travel outside the community to use. And I also heard today that Jimmy John's open, so go check them out. The Bunko event raised over $1,000, so congrats on that. Yes, very much so. Compton Recycling is looking for veterans in the Colerain area, so they could use a Thanksgiving dinner. So if you know of any veterans you'd like to nominate, or if you'd like to donate to that, go see Debbie. She's right over there. She would. Yes, that's worthy. Very worthy. Very worthy. So thank you for your hard work on that. Also, congrats to the CFA graduation. I am a graduate of that myself. It's a great program, and actually, let me just take a second to thank Raj and Dan for supporting of our police academies and our fire academies, because those are things that when you look at a budget and you're going through things and you have to make cuts or justify things here or there, that's one of the things that people look at and go, ooh, is this a want or a need? And I have to tell you, it's a wonderful program. If you guys get a chance to go through it, I highly recommend it. It'll take at least one day out of your week for, 8 weeks? Is that what it is? 10 weeks? So that was close. But I went through one. I'd like to go through the other. And just thank you for supporting that, because it's a great thing in our community. And I was always worried that maybe it wouldn't be there someday. So far, so good. Okay, get out your calendars. November 16th is Breakfast with the Chiefs. Actually, I think you said that earlier. 9 a.m., Frank's Diner. The Colerain Police Department has an open house November 17th. I think you mentioned that too, 10 to 2. November 19th is our land use meeting. I thought I was going to be in L.A., Jenna, but it looks like I'm actually going to be here for that. So forgive me, I missed the last one. November 24th from 9 to 3:30 is the Pray, Hope, Believe Foundation's blood drive at St. Anne Catholic Church. We also, as you heard earlier, are going to have one from 1 to 7 at Southland Baptist for Andrew. So if you didn't hear by now, unfortunately, his Brody's brother was hit by a car. He's doing better. His dad has done a wonderful job of keeping everyone updated, because he realizes that everyone is just on top of this with prayers and whatnot. So if you haven't subscribed to the Facebook page, the Team Brody Facebook page, his dad, actually everyone, does a great job of updating really everyone on that. I have not heard from our last meeting if our friend, I believe it was Ed, got a kidney. I don't know. So if anybody has an update on that, that would be wonderful. He has not. He has not. Did you bring signs with you today? Did you bring signs with you today?
I did not.
See, I was womp womp. Awesome, awesome.
Okay.
Perfect. I would love to thank Carrie for that, but she literally just left. Thanks. But yeah, let us know. We'll happily get those yard signs out so we can get him a kidney. Thank you for being here too, by the way. Moving along here on December 1st, the YMCA's 30th annual boutique holiday craft fair is 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's free admission right next door here at the Colerain Senior and Community Center. That's a wonderful event. December 5th is the Colerain Historical Society's membership Christmas party at Barnesburg. So if you have not signed up to be a member of the Historical Society, you can sign up anytime. That's at 6 p.m. And let's see here. Does anyone else have an event or something they would like me to add or that I may have missed? Because I feel like this was a really short. People working cooperatively. When is that again? November 17th at? This Saturday at the Senior Center. Thank you. Remind me later, and I'll share that on Facebook too, because forgive me, I missed that in my report. Also, I wanted to thank Jim Love. Looks like he's gone here now for representing us. Anytime you see us on the news, we've got something sensitive going on. Jim does a great job of really taking the pressure off of all of us and being really the voice that has to say some things that are difficult to say sometimes, and he does a great job of that. So thank you, Jim, for that. If I don't see everyone before Thanksgiving again, I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving. As always, if you have any questions or anything, you can reach out to me before, during, or after the meetings. And thank you very much.
Speaking of blood drives, there's also one at St. James Church on Thursday afternoon. I know they were signing people up this weekend. I don't know if there's any spots left. But as I walked in, the lady asked me if I wanted to donate. I said, absolutely, give me a time.
Yeah.
And it's, so I'm not sure if they have any spots left, but I'm sure if you call the church.
Just to kind of piggyback off that comment, there was a little bit of a misconception that when you're donating blood, you can specifically make sure it goes to Andrew or in honor of Tony Merck. You can request who you would like to donate it in honor of, but you can't specifically say who you want it to go to for a number of reasons. One, they may not be the same blood type, but two, they have to go through a lot of testing and just make sure it's...
Blood's not immediately available for donation.
Yeah, but they did, just to be frank, this was something that Andrew's dad had posted on the internet. They'd gone through, I think, 27 liters or something like that of blood. 37 liters of blood. And I believe like everyone on his floor was ironically the same blood type or something along those lines, which is just a horrible coincidence. So they're in desperate need of blood. So please get out and donate. We now know of, thanks to Heather, 3 different opportunities over the next few weeks. So please get involved in that. Sorry.
Thank you, Greg. Raj had one other comment.
Lori and Mike, they were working on the lighting, getting signatures, and we needed 51 signatures, 51%. And I've been talking to Jeff. He's very supportive of this project. Once the signature done, we'll have the lighting district funds established. We'd like to see the more lighting.
Where is this at specifically, if you don't mind?
I think we're starting with the Niagara Street, correct? Niagara Street is very important. We should have the lighting soon.
Awesome.
And once we get the signature, 51% signatures done, and me and Jeff will work together to establish the fund.
Thanks for your work on that.
Thank you, Raj.
Thank you, Lori.
I will keep mine short, as I always like to do, since here we are. The issue with Colerain's band is no secret. I'm a huge supporter of music education. That's early to start, but band kids are pretty well disciplined, and how many teenagers can you get out of bed and have them somewhere at 6:45 in the morning if it wasn't for band? You don't know where you're going to end up at with that type of education. The Fire Academy graduation, that was an excellent event. Thank you for having me there. Mr. O'Brien, I will go look at 98 Laura Linda just like I do everything. Our zoning department isn't perfect. They've processed more complaints this year, a lot of them generated by the attitude of this board. Let's get this township cleaned up, and I applaud them for what they've been able to accomplish. But if you know something that's not getting done, please contact them or send them an email or call me. My cell phone number is right at the bottom of my biography on the township website. Today, and this has to do with the item that's on the agenda with the study of Colerain Avenue, on my own time and on my own dime, I took an hour-long ethics course on engineering and the importance of having engineers and architects that stamp plans so that you have a formalized plan so that you can go out and apply for grants and different things. And if you don't have a formalized plan and doesn't have that professional stamp on it, you're going to have a lot less. I think you have a greater opportunity to obtain grant dollars when you have professionally done work. For those watching at home and those in the audience, and sometimes when the citizens address this board, and this board is, we don't limit the time, we take all comments. The three of us are not allowed to communicate outside of these meetings. So if it seems that one of us knows something and the other one doesn't, it's because we meet during our scheduled meetings. We do not have side meetings or two of us talking. I haven't talked to either one of these guys since the last meeting, and that's just the way it is set up under the Ohio Open Meetings Act. So if it seems like we don't have answers right away, it's because this is the only time we get to talk, and that's the way that the 2018 board does things. There was some gnashing of teeth very early this year that there would be a call for a tax increase this year. It's November. I haven't seen it this year, so we've made it through 18 without doing that. The amount of stuff that's on our agenda, that's another thing this board has accomplished. I realize past boards didn't emphasize getting the agendas out, sometimes not until the bare minimum of 24 hours before the meeting. We're getting our stuff out. Jeff usually sends it out for review on Thursday or Friday. I don't think we've missed having it published by end of day Friday. So people have 3 full days plus part of the day Tuesday to look at it. I am on the notification list for the Ohio EPA, and it seems that Rumpke has some type of draft permit. I will forward that to you and ask you to put that out on the website. So be ye advised by my words right now that there's another draft permit. I think it's the air permit coming out, but I'll have to go look at that, and I'll send it to you tomorrow. Big pieces of land that aren't in use anymore, and Northgate Mall, I'm all for the study to find out what should be done with it. About 2 weeks ago, my wife and I went out to a place that used to be a functioning airport called Blue Ash Airport. Blue Ash has dumped millions of dollars into turning that big, large airport into a park. That's nice. It's huge. It looks expensive. I'd encourage anybody to go out there and look at it and see what they've done with it. We went up in they have a tower out there that's about 160 feet tall. You can ride up in the elevator or go up the steps and look around. It's very nice. That is going to be a line item in their budget for a very long time. It is huge.
That park is twice our annual budget.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, we just don't, that's not what we're spending money on. We need...
It's amazing what an earnings tax will do.
We need revenue generating things without raising taxes. That's a nice place. Please go visit it and see what you think.
Dreams are free.
It is huge, and it's not done yet, and I don't think they have the funding to finish it out, but it's out there off Reed Hartman, the highway, I got a call today about a stop sign situation over on Susanna that I'll communicate with you offline, but I wanted to bring it up because I respond to every call I get and to the best of my ability. And with that, we will move on to the next item, which is new business.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Unger. All right, so we'll begin digging into this agenda on page 5 with Chief Cook in the Fire Department.
Board, I have one item for you to consider this evening, and that's the recommended adoption of a resolution for the Hamilton County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. Because the township is vulnerable to a wide range of natural, technological, and human-caused hazards that have the potential to cause loss of life and damages to public and private property, the recommended adoption of the Hazard Mitigation Plan provides the township and its public services options to protect people and property and reduce damage from the aforementioned categories of hazards. Speaking from 34 years of experiences in this township, we have experienced natural disasters in the form of tornadoes, windstorms, snow events, human-caused. We look at what's occurred with the mass shootings, fires, the automobile accident out on 275 several years ago. So, this plan will help us prepare for these hazards and disasters that the township is vulnerable to.
Recommendation is to adopt a resolution that would adopt formally Hamilton County's multi-hazard mitigation plan.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution.
The name of the resolution is Resolution Approving Adoption of the Hamilton County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Do I need to remake the motion to approve? Yes, please. Okay, I'd like to make the motion to approve.
And I will second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Chief, I got a couple of questions. When I was reading at this, all this, the plan, the members, the team, EPA is not in there.
Well, I was part of the steering committee.
The steering committee and EPA, they're the vital
frankly, I
people
don't
for
recall
the hazardous.
if EPA was part of that. It was representative by officials from a variety of agencies, not just fire and police, but the county engineer's office. I just don't recall if the EPA was involved.
Also, in the mention about all the risk factors, anything causing the hazardous disaster, right in our backyard and the Rumpke, I was taking a tour of Rumpke, the big hill. Also, I was talking to one of the scientists, expert on that, the landfill. There's obviously some kind of heat eruption could have happened that they were covered up with subsided. Now they put a big tar, a black tar on the top of the hill to subdue all the heat energy to erupt, and that's part of the hazardous.
Well, you may or may not be aware. Several years ago there was actually a landslide that occurred at the landfill. The cover that you're referring to is part of the odor control, but additionally what it does is excludes oxygen, I guess, if you will. The increased temperatures that are occurring underground. The heat's there, the fuel's there. To try to minimize the oxygen, it takes three of those elements to produce, fire, without getting too scientific. So, anyway, that cover, if you will, is, in my opinion, serves two purposes, and it's odor control and also to minimize oxygen introduced
explosions.
Well, you're not going to have explosions, but when we had the landfill slide up there, there was fires that occurred. Once that ground opened up, we had, because of the introduction of oxygen, we had spontaneous fires occur just because of the gas, the heat just being generated because of the decomposition process, during that vent. So, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at it. It's not mention of those kind of risk factor in the community. It's a human creating this risk factor. It's also natural disasters.
Yeah, just communities that have these landfills. There's case studies all across the United States where fires do occur, but it doesn't happen every day. Landfill operators expend quite a bit of time and resources in trying to minimize this type of event on their properties. And Rumpke's no different. They expend a lot of resources and time to try to minimize this risk to the community.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
And gentlemen, I will have you sign all of the resolutions at the end of the meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Chief Cook. Our next agenda item, we turn to Police Chief Mark Denny.
Thanks, Jeff. I've got 5 items for the board. The first is recommend adoption of a motion to appoint Ashley Johnson to the position of police officer. This appointment fills an existing vacancy. If approved, her starting salary would be $53,000, and her appointment would be effective upon her successful completion of the State of Ohio certification process. She currently serves as our records clerk and property room manager, and she's in the final weeks for Police Academy. And just as a point of fact, she's our second recipient of our scholarship we formed a couple years ago to try to increase our minority participation in the police department. So she's our second graduate, and we're proud of her. This is a backfill position, and by hiring her, we're saving $15,000 from the previous position.
Oh, wow.
Chief, is she subject to a 1-year probation?
She is, yes. Thank you.
I would motion that we do such a thing.
And I'll second the motion.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? And I did solicit that information from Jeff last week about the salary difference. I thought it was 53 versus 67, so
68.
maybe it's 17 instead of $15,000 first year savings. Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Next item is recommend adoption of a motion to appoint John Lammers to the position of police cadet. Mr. Lammers is a 2010 graduate of Elder High School and a 2018 graduate of Thomas More College, where he was a captain of the school's football team. John will graduate the Butler Tech Police Academy later this month, and he was a highly recruited officer. We had several departments vying for him at the same time. If approved, John will serve in the role of a police cadet for a period of not to exceed 8 weeks. Upon his successful completion of the police academy, he'll be eligible for appointment to the role of police officer. His salary will be $15 an hour. That would be effective December 1st.
You had me until you said you said elder graduate, and then that just-
We'll go ahead and open discussion. First, I'll make a motion for such a thing.
Oh, fine, I'll second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Besides your disparaging remarks about
Yeah, about a
high
new
school,
employee, right?
was there any other questions you had, Greg?
Go Cards.
What about you, Raj? Any discussion?
No.
I think that, once again, this is a less of a salary than the one this person's replacing, because we had 2 vacancies. And this, I know I asked you that question last week, Jeff, and
Yep.
I forget exactly what that number was on that one.
I forget also, but this is to begin the process as a cadet, and then the next item will be to make this gentleman a
Right, yeah,
police
somewhere in there
officer.
that
It's the same savings amount.
it's been motioned and seconded. Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Go Cards. Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Next item is for Mr. Lammers again. This is allow me recommend adoption of a motion to appoint him to the position of police officer once he passes the state certification test. So he'll serve in the role as a cadet until he passes that state certification test. Then he would be appointed to the role of a police officer. His salary would be $53,000, and he would serve a 1-year probationary period.
I'll make the motion.
I will second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, real quick, Larry, we're not jumping the gun.
I spoke to Chief about this. I asked some question on the Chief about this. He explained to me how this works. And you will have experience being a police officer, riding with, right?
Yes.
Right.
Our last officer we did this was Brian Habil. He's about finished with his training. He's 4 weeks ahead of his training because we were able to bring him in the role of police cadet. So instead of just having him sit there with nothing getting done, we got him his training inside the office, and we're able to put him right in the car as soon as he was eligible to be a policeman.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Next item is recommend adoption of a motion for the board to sign a letter requesting action by the Ohio Department of Transportation. There's a letter in your packet that describes a traffic hazard on southbound Colerain Avenue turning into the driveway next to Mike's Car Wash. My traffic officer came to me and has had a large number of crashes in that area, and he's worried about a serious injury crash due to the speeds that are involved. So I kind of highlighted the issues involved and the number of crashes we've had at that intersection. The state has already shown interest in wanting to close that intersection, but they need the board's support to do that.
I'll make the motion.
I will second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, this might be an ideal time actually to get with the state to get with the state on some I talk loud enough, they can hear. To get with the state on some beautification stuff, because there's a pretty good sized concrete median right there that, you know, maybe this is the right time for that. So I would encourage, as we dig deeper into this and move along, to try to get some cooperation from ODOT.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Last item is recommend approval of a motion to authorize the capital purchase of radar equipment for the police department. Again, in your packet, there's a memo describing the need for the police department. Lieutenant Chris Phillips did a study for me on the need and our current inventory, and he's made a recommendation to make that purchase, and I brought that forward to you.
I'll make the motion.
It's been motioned and seconded by Raj. Is there any discussion? This radar equipment, we talked about that earlier. I am no fan of turning us into a speed trap, so describe to me how we don't have quotas for officers, how this is not a revenue-generating enterprise, but it's just a follow-up to the equipment you bought earlier this year.
And it was pointed out, we don't have the time to sit and run stationary radar. These radars allow us to do that in a moving mode, so the officers can't be patrolling, responding to another call while still operating the radar. Any kind of enforcement effort, you do three different prongs. You do education, prevention, and enforcement. So we've done the speed signs, we've done the circle notifications. We have to have enforcement on that as well to try to tackle this problem. So that allows us to do that part of the equation. There's a misunderstanding with citations and how much we actually get from those anyway. Even if we were
please
to write
say
those.
that loud so everyone can grasp that.
We get about $20 if the court orders it. And many times the court will waive the fine and they'll impose the court cost, which means the court gets paid, but the community that wrote the citation gets nothing. It's maybe 0.5% of my budget comes from writing citations. I probably spend that printing the citations, to be quite honest with you. This is not a money-making deal for us at all. It's a public safety issue, and I'll challenge anybody to show me a ticket that's been written that didn't fall into that category.
What is you just said the 3 steps or whatever. Is that something we could put out through Circle, just to, like you said, to educate people so they understand that? Because I do get that question a lot, how we're making fortunes off speeders, and I know that's not the case.
And it's kind of the same model with the QRT. There's prevention, there's enforcement, there's education. So you have to do things in a 360.
Yeah. I've noticed is honestly, every 6 months to a year, we need to put those things out again, even though I know we're repeating ourselves. But the reality is, when you put it out one time, somebody might not see it, but then 6 months later, they do see it, and then a year later, they've forgotten, so they need the reminder anyway.
That's the
some of
value
these
of traffic stops. To be honest with you, they've studied that as many people as drive by a traffic stop, that triggers something in their mind that we are out there enforcing. So there is a greater good to making those stops as well, even if we're not writing citations.
Yeah, let's continue to put that literature, however you want to articulate it out through our Facebook pages and our Circle and stuff like that, because I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you, Board.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Denny. Next, we move on to Public Services and Mr. Schwartzoff.
Thank you, Jeff. I have 3 items tonight. The first is a motion to accept grant funding. Recommend adoption of a motion to authorize the Township Administrator to accept $150,000 NatureWorks grant from Ohio Department of Natural Resources and to sign all related agreements, including the state local project sponsor contract agreement. The purpose of the grant funding was to support the Megaland Playground project at Colerain Park. The required local match is actually 25%, so it is $50,000, and our grant is $150,000, which is $75,000. 75% of the $200,000.
Okay. Wait a minute.
So 150 grant money, 50,000 local. We may appropriate more, but that's what we need to do to account for the grant funding.
50 is 25% of
That's the bare
200.
minimum, and we've budgeted $350,000 for this
The other
project.
150 is coming from the state.
150 from the state, 150 from Colerain, 50 from hopefully from the business community raising that.
But to receive the grant, we only need to put up 50,000. That's what the state of Ohio requires. We're just going to put up more because the replacement cost is more than $200,000.
I'm excited to dive into this deeper. I'll make the motion.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Go ahead, Raj.
Kevin does a great job. That's fantastic work he did.
Yes.
And, you've been planning for it, and you sought the grant. I think we'll get the sponsors to match that fund.
Thank you.
Just to put a historical perspective on this, when Megaland was built, that was the park. I mean, it was all the rage. It was everyone talked about it. It was just one of those things that, I mean, people would travel, across the counties to come to this park. It was just that ahead of its time. It was just that sought after, that amazing. And, with everything, you lose your luster with age and time and whatnot. And now, I believe that park has been replaced by the one on West Fork Road. So it would be nice to maybe compete with them again, just putting it out there, because they have what I think is kind of perceived as the premier park playground in the area, and I would love to get that title back from Colerain Township. So I'll look forward to crossing that bridge as we get a little bit closer.
I don't know if you were here then, but Greg Schneider was, and Paula Skitt, and Jerry Ann Halfer, and myself, and an attorney named Dan Mecklenburg, who was on the school board at the time. The five of us took a ride up to Wilmington on our own time and our own dime one day and looked at the park that had just been constructed there. And I do have a little bit of history with Megaland myself. I don't climb on it, or didn't climb on it or play on it since my kids were little, but that is probably every bit of 24, 25 years old already, and a lot of time has gone by since that was constructed.
Right.
So, any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
I am quite thrilled to call the roll on this. Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
My second item also involves with funding for Megaland. It's a resolution to apply for funding from Ohio Parks and Recreation Association statewide training and funding initiative. I recommend approval of a resolution to submit a funding application with the Ohio Parks and Recreation Association statewide training and funding initiative. They have $1.5 million in matching funds that we can request with an application. And what this grant would do, the program will offer financial assistance with design, and the final product will be recognized by the OP Area Conference. It is also likely that the playground could receive national recognition once it's built.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
And my third item is also involving Megaland. It's a motion to accept Megaland replacement project sponsorship opportunities. I recommend the adoption of a motion to establish Megaland sponsorship levels. Over 20 years ago, the Colerain community heavily supported the original Megaland playground project. We are seeking that same support for our 2019 Megaland replacement. We are requesting the community and businesses to financially support the replacement of Megaland and have established the attached sponsorship opportunities. The goal of this program is to raise as many dollars as possible to help cover the local share of the project grant. I'm also meeting with Colerain Elementary 5th grade leadership team on November 27th to allow them to review our playground design and offer their input on what we build at the site.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, everybody out there, everybody's watching at home, contact your local businesses and see if they're interested in sponsoring, because we can use all the help in the world. So, the more sponsors we get, the greater the playground can be. So, please help.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Shortsoff. Congratulations on that successful grant. Ms. LeCount?
3 items for planning and zoning this evening. Start with a recommended adoption of a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement to remove uncontrolled vegetation and/or refuse at the listed properties. This resolution is recommended to allow the trustees to abate and assess properties with Ohio Revised Code nuisance violations. These 7 properties listed on this resolution are 8288 Cheviot, 8229 Georgiana, 10855 Penarth, 9881 Pippin, 2448 Roosevelt, 8540 Sunlight, and 12173 Westerly.
I'll make the motion.
I will second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you. The second item this evening is recommended approval of a resolution to waive sidewalks along the Sheed Road frontage of the Copper Creek subdivision and to approve a payment in lieu of sidewalks to be made into the sidewalk fund. This resolution is being recommended to grant a waiver to Mount Hope LLC for a 141-foot portion of required sidewalks along Sheed Road at the Copper Creek subdivision. The applicant has agreed to make a payment in lieu of these sidewalks in the amount of $4,230 into the Colerain Township Sidewalk Fund. The name of the resolution is Resolution Approving Application for Sidewalk Waiver.
I'll make the motion.
I will second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I think I've got a question on this. So, my understanding is, there's been a lot of talk about sidewalks lately. My understanding is the school had actually paid into our vacant sidewalk fund on the new schools that they had built so that they could essentially save money. Now, I understand that, they've got busing for elementary kids and whatnot, but is there a way, I guess this is my question maybe for Larry, is there a way that we could have, just for future reference, denied that request? Yes. So when they go to build another new school, we can say, no, we're not taking your money, put the sidewalks in, because we believe that they're more important than the little bit of money we're going to get from the fund. Is that?
It's up to you, but yes, legally you can do it.
Okay, I didn't know if we had to accept that for whatever reason, because it is a little frustrating, because I genuinely believe, right there on Kemper, particular. Well, anyway, I wish they would have put sidewalks in at those. Pippin and Kemper, yeah. Right.
So the purpose of the sidewalk fund, so we require sidewalks with every new development, and the purpose of the sidewalk fund is if you are if you're developing in a place like Sheed Road, which
no one would ever use that sidewalk,
no connections at all to anything else, it doesn't It doesn't make sense to require that somebody put those sidewalks in there. So instead, we waive that requirement, and then the developer pays into the sidewalk fund so that sidewalks can be built in a place that it does make sense to have the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Just so the board is aware, typically staff is working with the applicant prior to their application being made to you. So if staff is going to recommend against it, you may notice that I have not seen a sidewalk waiver application in front of you that didn't have staff support behind it. That is because we'll actually work with that applicant. So I'll give you a good example. There was one over on Compton Road, which, as you know from our sidewalk open house, is one of the priority areas identified as a gap in the township. So there was a request that was going to come in. We worked with the applicant, and basically they're going to put the sidewalks in rather than asking for that waiver. Because it's anticipated sometime in the relatively near future, we may be putting sidewalks along that stretch. We're not going to want to have to put in sidewalks when this development is happening now.
Yeah, if I can further piggyback off that, I would strongly encourage staff to look for any kind of grants. Like I know Jeff had found a good one on Colerain Avenue to go from Burnside to Banning. Is that right?
Yep.
$600,000 or something. That was a wonderful thing for our community, and particularly on these county roads, we just need more money for sidewalks. And I mean to piggyback off what Jim was saying earlier, why are we paying for it on some of these things? Usually we don't, but it would be nice if they would step up and take care of some of those glaring issues that we have. So yeah, for future reference, because I presume they're going to be building a new school at some point. At least at this point in time, I would say I would rather them not pay into a vacant sidewalk fund. I would rather them just install the sidewalks. I think they're needed. So that's my 2 cents.
I do have one question about that site, Jenna. I've driven up the Copper Creek. It's just been paved with a base coat in the past month. The sidewalks that are not going to be built, are they along Sheed Road, or are they going to be up through both sides of that street? And
only along Sheed Road. They are planning to construct the sidewalks inside that subdivision. So they're only requesting the waiver for Sheed Road.
So the termination of the sidewalks will probably be a crosswalk down by the stop sign, so somebody that was out walking.
Likely, yes.
Okay, that was my question. Was there any other discussion?
Are they going to install a stoplight over there? That on the subdivision, they're building it?
I don't believe that a stoplight is in the works there, no.
That has pretty good sight lines down there.
Does it?
As opposed to the bottom of Gaines, which does not.
Oh, yeah.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Driscoll?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you. And the last item I have for you this evening is I requested motion to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance for the Get Efficient and Solarize programs. It's recommended adoption of a motion to allow Township Administrator Jeff Mills to execute an MOU with the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance for the purpose of promotion, marketing, and education of the Energy Alliance's Get Efficient and Solarize programs. Essentially, this MOU will allow the township to display the Energy Alliance materials and to publish various materials through township electronic media. This MOU will bring no monetary cost to the township and will tie directly into the energy plan component of the comprehensive plan. These materials will help township residents identify ways to reduce their energy footprint.
I'll make the motion.
I will second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I have a question. Larry, excuse me, I got a question for you. Engaging MOU with this energy company, is the township is still liable for if the people don't, anything they are not complying with their program or any liability lawsuit stemming from them?
I don't see any liability that should attach to the township as a result of this, no. I mean, I guess it's...
People not happy or satisfied with their service.
They're an independent agency.
But you're engaging MOU with that company.
Right, but they're still an independent agency.
Yeah.
And if they do something, in their service to one of your residents or one of the township's residents, that would be a violation of their obligation to the resident, not of the township's obligation to the resident. So I don't think that would make
so
the
we have
township...
protection
Yes.
against liabilities.
Yes, I don't think that would make the township liable.
And our role in the MOU is outlined in the document, but it's almost 100% communicative. So we are just communicating that these programs exist for our residents.
Actually, kind of promoting, right?
Yeah. We're promoting it through. We're telling people about it.
People still in the promoting can sue you. You're promoting this, endorsing, almost like an endorsement, right?
Right. I'm not saying people won't sue. I'm just saying I don't think there should be any liability. I don't think the township is going to be having any interaction with the customer that would create a duty on the part of the township to the customer that would result in a successful lawsuit. I mean, it's possible somebody could be mad with the service they get and then sue the township too, but I don't think the township would be liable for that.
Fair enough.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Kevin's on the edge of his seat out there, so aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Runger?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
With the completion of those items, I don't believe there's any other business for the four of you, and I try to get you out of here by 10, so you're welcome to stay. Is there any other reason for them to be here?
Yeah, no. See
Okay,
you tomorrow.
so please be bright and bushy-tailed at whatever time you get here.
Bushy-tailed?
You can.
What does that even mean?
You can go check out the Colerain Band at 6:45 in the morning.
Oh,
or,
too soon.
Or whatever, but please take a moment and excuse yourselves if you wish.
I think it's only during competition season because I know it's not. I know it's not year round. When's your son's season over? Last game?
Next Saturday.
Next Saturday's last game over?
Yep.
You got the banana still?
Yep. No, he's got it.
Okay, very good. So the next three items are administrative items. The first one is one we've spent a fair amount of time on this evening. It's a motion authorizing execution of a contract with KZF Design for the Colerain Avenue Corridor Study. The recommendation is to approve this motion. Colerain Township has been working for many, many years to improve the conditions along Colerain Avenue. The resulting efforts have led to improved vehicular-oriented roadway, but it has left much to desire in terms of urban design and the pedestrian environment, not to mention aesthetics. Making a conscious effort to change, the township would like to create a consistent, appealing, and safe public environment from the city of Cincinnati limits to the Hamilton County boundary. To further improvements, the township also wishes to partner with Green Township and Mount Airy Urban Redevelopment Enterprise on this effort. This agenda item is the direct result of hearing what is important to you and trying to craft a strategic plan that aligns what it is that our Board of Trustees wants to accomplish with the resources that we have available to accomplish that. I did a great deal of study. In fact, you'll recall that, Greg, there was a motion earlier in the year to solicit qualifications from designers to do a plan like this. We received one submission, and that was from the organization that has done some design work in the past for the township that we still, to this day, are talking about not liking, like the bridge. Having called around to other communities, Anderson Township has a road very much like Colerain Avenue, Beechmont Avenue. KZF Design has been planning in Beechmont Avenue for the last 20 years. I believe that this firm is uniquely qualified to prepare a corridor plan. The purpose of starting before next year is to identify projects that we can take to OKI for funding. I think the point was raised several times tonight that it's going to cost a lot of money to beautify Colerain Avenue, and it may. But our hope is that we're not the ones that are paying for it. The reason we're doing this plan is to position ourselves well for grant money and to really make a difference in the way that our residents and businesses and visitors, frankly, interact with and think about Colerain Avenue. Recommendation is to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it to bring it to the floor for discussion. So it's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'll say that.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think actually we're currently paying for it as a benefit that we haven't been getting all these years because it wasn't done. The reality is Colerain is capable of being so much more than it is. It's a wonderful place. Don't get me wrong. I find myself, I'm often a referee and a cheerleader, but I'm mainly a cheerleader when it comes to Colerain. But there's always room for improvement. And this is really the first big step in bringing Colerain into the 21st century and making it the community that it's always been capable of being. So I'm beyond excited to work with these guys and everyone involved in this to really make it the place that it needs to be, it could be, and it will be. So thank you.
And Greg, this has been your initiative and Raj's initiative, and I think it is critical, but more from a point of if we're going to be applying for grants, you need to have a formalized plan with paid professional architects and engineers or whatever this involves, or you can't apply for those grants. And with that, I intend to support your initiative.
Appreciate it for sure.
Raj, did you have any comments?
Sure. Thanks, Dana. It's a great initiative. Like I said, myself and Greg, we talk about all along, right from when I got elected. Colerain Township is like gateway, make like corridor. It's one of our plan. It's a great thing. It's a great idea, and you come up with this good idea. Only thing is, we're going to pay almost $97,000, close to when it's all over, it'll be $100,000 from the general fund at the beginning. Okay, general fund. We had to make it. We're going to invest $100,000. We got to get the stakeholders involved, and who are the people who are going to work with them. Let them involve first. Hey, this is the idea we come up with. $100,000 we're going to spend. What do you think? Number one person will be ODOT. ODOT is the main people. They own the Colerain Avenue. So I talked to them. I talked to the director. If we're going to spend about close to $100,000, what's the stake? How are you going to help? How are you going to get the grant? Then another person will talk to the county engineer, because they also, then of course, OKI, and then the director. So I talked to the county people, they said, well, I think it's a better idea to let us sit down and talk, but the design is pretty good, the idea is good. Let's see how you're going to do this. Once the study is done, and how you're going to get the grant, how the money is going to get. These people need to be involved right in the first stage, very first stage. You cannot bring them, hey, I got the study done. This is the study done. Can you do this? Are you going to do this? hey, you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me first what we guys to do. You know, we got to, ODOT people has to, number one, has to decide. Like Jim said earlier, they spent about $53,000 in the studies of the past. What did it come up with? What did it come up with? So we're spending a lot of money in the study. No one, this taxpayers' money, $100,000. You know, we got it. That's a lot of money. We can help some good neighborhood, like we need the lighting. You know, I grew up in the village. I never had a light in my house till I was in the first year in college. So I studied, did my homework, the street lights. I used to stand in front of my porch and did all my homework in the street. But even though the poor village like that, they put a street lights. The village is poor, the poor country, you know, at the time. The first thing they did, they put a street lights. We live in a modern era. There's no street lights, you know. So I'm not comparing this and this, spending money.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great idea. We can still keep KZF, you know, hey, we're going to talk to you. Before then, like I said earlier, let's get together people involved. Like, hey, this is a study, we're going to come out, what you think. Let us go and proceed that.
Yep.
Because would you help us in the future? Because definitely I love the idea of this is my goal.
Yeah.
Colerain Avenue, Colerain Corridor. This is like a gateway to our community, you know, our township. You know, I drive around the field Erdel, they're doing an outstanding job. I'm going to the Madeira, outstanding job. Anderson Township, numerous townships.
Makes you want to spend more time there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's so nice.
But still, if you go, you probably gone to the field Erdel. I mean, it's amazing how they did this. But Ted Hubbard's involved in that. You know, that circle when they take the exit, the big bridge they built. Ted was a pioneer on that. So when we involve these people at the beginning, this is a project we're going to do,
yep.
And you get a more response when we go and ask for the grant in the future. That's my idea. That's my goal. But what you've done is a nice, great thing. You know, bring the people, having, study, propose a study, the beautification. I would rather have that first phase will be get these people involved first, show that we're going to do this, what your thoughts are. Go from there. You know?
I agree 100%, and that's exactly what Eric Anderson has done. He's here in the audience today, and he might be able to shed some light on how the Anderson project worked. The integration with, I'm putting him on the spot here.
Are you able to speak?
Are you?
He's been jumping out of his seat for an hour.
Would you please approach the mic and state your name?
Eric, if you wouldn't mind just sharing the way in which...
Adjust the microphone up, please.
The way in which you engage with ODOT and the Hamilton County engineer already on this project and in the past on the Anderson project.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, my name is Eric Anderson. I'm a community planner with KZF Design. And I worked with Jeff to develop the proposal that you all have in front of you. So what we have done on Beachmont Avenue with Anderson Township and what we proposed in the Colerain Avenue corridor study would be to engage ODOT and Hamilton County right off the bat, because we're not going to be successful if we don't have them involved first and foremost. As a township, you don't have a lot of control over what happens with the roadway, and the county and ODOT do. So they're a critical piece to kicking off this project, and it's part of one of the first phases of the proposal is to engage Hamilton County and ODOT.
And Eric, and that's the reason why on page 5 of your proposal, you say, the first step after kicking off the project and collecting some data is the first step is to evaluate existing conditions and get with ODOT and the Hamilton County Engineer's Office. And then there's a community visioning section where you hold coordinating meetings with ODOT and the Hamilton County Engineer's Office. That's why you've engaged them so much so early on in the process, right?
Yeah, and the work that we did on Beachmont Avenue, we're really, we just completed an update to their corridor plan in June of this year, and we really proposed a lot of innovative things that the township and the people of Anderson Township wanted. Some of that being on-street parking, some of that being urban design and streetscape improvements, some of that being bike facilities in some places where they were needed, where there are no sidewalks. And none of that would have happened on a state-owned roadway without close coordination with ODOT.
The West Banco that's out there, I went to pull in there to use the cash machine. I noticed you've possibly on your recommendation taken away one of their access driveways and made it all collect into that main driveway. I can't think if Target's back there behind it. I know there's a Chick-fil-A there.
Yeah.
But that's some of the things you'd be doing. And you know, one of the things we talked about earlier this evening was that turn into Mike's Car Wash, where we're having 157 accidents in the last time period. So I am somewhat familiar with a lot of the changes out there.
Yeah, and reviewing access management along Colerain Avenue, we'll look at opportunities if we can close driveways or I mean, that's just one example, but
them together. So
yeah, consolidate or find other ways to get to certain properties. It's all part of what we'll look at.
Yeah, no doubt. If they can't fix some of our infrastructure issues, no one can. You know,
the director sent me all the plans, like what the plans are, what are the accidents rate in the Colerain Avenue. So it is very complicated things, but we're on the right track. We're starting this process, which you guys, your office used to be right next to my office. I can look at your office through my window, you know. and you guys are highly efficient guys, but at this stage, we'll approach those people first, then we'll contact you. That's what my recommendation.
And then, Eric, I noticed on page 7 in the project schedule, you've got coordinate with ODOT and county twice listed in the Gantt chart.
Yeah,
So-
we want to do it early, and then once we have an initial set of recommendations, then we want to go to ODOT again and review with them, because they'll have their own comments and their own thoughts. But we'll want to make sure we present everything to them before we finalize the project to make sure that any of their concerns or thoughts are addressed in the plan.
Sounds like they'll be engaged throughout the whole
And will you be our contact on this plan?
I'm not the project manager, but I will be one of the main planners on the project.
And the credentials of some of the people that'll be working on it, are they engineers and architects?
Yes, so licensed professional engineers and then certified planners by the American Planning Association.
And I know that those credentials aren't inexpensive, but you get quality stamped approved plans that can be funded through grants and that type of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
I think work that they've done in Anderson speaks for itself. I mean, you don't have to drive very far before you can look and go, wow, you know, why haven't we done, why did it take us this long, being such a similar community? But yeah, you're hard. I realize, you know, when you hear $100,000 up front, it scares people, but the reality is $100,000 in the grand scheme of things, I don't want to say it's nothing, but in the grand scheme of things, it's very, very, very minimal. I mean, we're talking about a huge, long, complicated project. I mean, the one that's going to define generations, you know, well past us for sure. So, I don't know, I'm just completely.
Architects and engineers are expensive.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, and it's a project that takes a long time too. A year is a long time, and because you want to make sure that you engage everybody, we want to make sure we engage the public, and we want to make sure we take enough time to do a quality project and produce a great plan.
Move your business to Colerain.
According to time frame, I was looking at it, almost when you give $100,000 poster, you'll be done the study December of 19. By the time, the year to do the study, 1 year. So, you know, $100,000 is a lot of money for the taxpayers. Let's before you dump the money somewhere, let's talk to the stakeholders. So what the thoughts are? They're the main people. You know, and then after that they say this is feasible. That's what I said earlier also. I repeat it again. You know, sorry. You know. Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Ms. Drinsko?
Aye, thanks for being here.
Mr. Rajagopal?
No.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye. Motion carries. Next
Very good.
item.
Thank you, Board. The next item on the agenda is the result of an incredible amount of work, and I just wanted to take a second to recognize the work that's gone into this policy manual update on the part of Jeff Weckbach. This was one of the first things that sort of put on his list because it's important that together, it's very important to both of us that as a management style, we manage to policy, and there should not be discrepancies between what our policy says and what our practice is. So that means that we have to take a look at every single policy that the township had from a very critical perspective. Is this how we want the township to work? Does this policy get us closer to that? And can it actually be implemented? So before handing it over to Jeff, I just wanted to say, Jeff, thank you. This is also the first reading. We recognize that it's 200 and however many pages, and
600.
Is it? Well, yeah. The policy
5, 6, 7, 9, 9, give me 10, 10.
628.
Right.
Turn
That's
it into
the
an
whole
auction.
thing. But the policy itself is several hundred pages, and we recognize that nobody has the ability to dive deep into that in just a period of days. We want to give residents and trustees and everyone the opportunity to really think critically about what this means, because this is how we're going to be managing the operations of the township. So with that, as a prelude, hand it over to Jeff.
So I will recommend a first reading of a resolution to adopt the Colerain Township Policy Manual. As Jeff said before, our goal from an administration standpoint is to manage to policy, and in order to do that, we think it's effective to have a policy book or policy manual, whatever you want to call it, that we can use, that our employees can see, that our citizens can see, and that will outline what we plan to do. We understand this is going to be a living document. There will be changes that will occur. There will be opportunities for people to provide feedback, and we welcome any and all feedback on this policy book. By formally adopting this policy book, Township trustees will be establishing their policy guidance for day-to-day operations of the township. And if you have any questions, or if you would like a more detailed review of changes to existing policies, additional policies that are included in this document that you may have never seen before, or potential deletions, there is a memo in the packet as well, and I'd be happy to share that with anyone that requests.
In other words,
Let's go ahead and motion and get it on the floor.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second. It's been motioned and seconded for approval of a first reading. So go ahead, Raj.
so the first reading is not effective document. It's not the ultimate document. They're liable to change sick leave procedures, policy, vacation policy, severance pay, and all this could be changed on the recommendation of, if you want to change, to be a next second reading when it's finalized.
So what you want to do moving forward is take a very close look at how these policies are written and what it means, and then start sending us feedback. The quicker you send us feedback, the easier it is for us to make these changes. We'll incorporate all that feedback into the second reading, and the resolution isn't going to change. The resolution will be the same, but there may be changes to the policy document. And just as we did with this first reading, we'll have a change memo that identifies what changes were made between the words that are in this policy book and the words that come up in the second reading. So
the second reading is what the final policy is become effective, authentic.
You got it.
Well, the official documents.
At the whim of the trustees, we might not adopt this whole thing in one night. We might adopt a few sections of it that we might adopt the things we agree on, and then there's going to be those 2 or 3 sections that we argue about for a month.
Sure, that's possible too.
This is just another transparent thing we're doing by putting it out there and letting people see it, and be advised it's out there. That's what this motion is. So
yes.
Go ahead. Any changes should be made, it'll be directed to Jeff, yourself, or both of you. Okay? So you will give a response to us. Say this was change, or to get the change approved all the bodies, all the board members
Have to
need
approve
be
it.
approved.
Yeah. And so, depending on how this works out, there could be some discussion or there could be some arguments on both sides of the change. So here's the pros, here are the cons. It's up to you to weigh those and figure out which side you come down on. You set the policy, and our job as the administration is to execute your policy. And so that's what this is.
Would the changes will be made in the open, in the committee meetings, the discussions will be made, or executive sessions?
If you guys send us the changes that you would like to make, right, then we'll prepare a change memo that outlines all of the changes that were suggested, pros and cons for making those changes, and then re-present it at the second reading in December. And that way, you'll have the opportunity to debate amongst yourselves about what the right direction is for that particular policy.
Right. Now, if we don't like some of the policies, and Kathy, I will read these pages and follow up. If there's something on 412 that we don't like, the three of us can discuss it and, vote like we do on anything else and change the policy right then. So I'm glad to have it out there. I know some of you guys out in the audience have been honest to get a policy book together, and here we are. And there's the social media policy we talked about and everything else. So please take some time over the next few weeks and check it out.
Sure.
Is there any other discussion? No. Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Ensco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. The next item is a motion to accept a donation. Mr. Weckbach? Oh, yeah, sorry. Actually, I can take it. So this is a motion this is a recommendation to adopt a motion to accept a donation of $200 in gift cards from Meyer for support of township employees during the annual employee awards and recognition luncheon that's coming up. Meyer has generously donated $200. Recommendation is to approve that donation.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Ensco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you, Board. The next two items are on the consent agenda, and the recommendation is to approve both contracts. One is with Calfee in the amount of $2,500 for the production of a communications plan. This aligns with the 2019 stated goal of engaging better with our citizens and telling our story. That contract was signed on October 17th. And then the second item is a contract between Colerain Township and consumerinfo.com for the purchase of identity protection for those individuals whose social security numbers were released during public records.
Should we vote on those separately?
I think that the consent agenda can
I think you can vote on them at the same time. He already signed them pursuant to your approval.
Yep. So
and authorization.
Right. So you all have given me the ability to execute contracts under 7,500. This is yet another transparency initiative whereby I put every contract that I sign into the agenda so that you all can see it.
You can vote on them separately if you prefer.
I'm fine making a motion, and I will motion to approve both and get it on the floor for discussion.
Very good.
Is there a second?
I'll offer a second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Go ahead, Dan.
I am on that page on the agenda, and it says disengage. This is the Calfee item. This engagement may be terminated by any time by either party upon 14 days written notice to the other party. So I guess that's just an ongoing the thing you have in there, Jeff Mills?
Yeah, so if we wanted to shut it down tomorrow, we could shut it down tomorrow, but the purpose is to develop a communications plan and strategy for the township.
And it looks like they'll have something to you by next week with revisions to get it tuned in just how you want it. The other item, the Experian, yes, I guess a public record got out of here with somebody's social on it. That happens. I've come to discover you're not perfect, and neither is Heather, neither am I.
That's right.
But I would ask if anybody making public records requests finds that we've let something out, please notify us right away. We're taking this step to protect the identity of the person whose social got out. I mean, we're all humans, and We all make mistakes, and I guess that slipped out of here, and we're doing the best thing we know to do, which is try to protect that employee whose information got out.
Yes.
Do you guys have any items or any
They
discussion?
charge you by the, case by case, right?
By the individual, yeah.
Individual.
Well, I guess I'll just note, we have a couple hundred employees that work thousands of hours every month, and we're a community that brings in and spends millions a month. If this is the biggest mistake we made, I think we've done a pretty good job around here. And I don't know how, you can say, oh my God, all you want, but you can't dispute that. Thousands of hours of work, thousands. Six.
Well, if
Although that's a horrible thing, if 6 people's socials are all that gets out of thousands of hours of work, tens of thousands a year, I'd say that we've got a pretty good staff of people that do a pretty darn good job. And,
but at this point, we're just trying to protect.
Yeah. How can you argue with protecting people when some mistakes made? Would you rather us not protect them? I mean, that seems like the right thing to do. If it's not, forgive me, but you know, if when someone makes a mistake, here's the thing: everyone makes mistakes in life. It's how you respond to them that makes you who you are. And I think by acknowledging a mistake was made and fixing a mistake, what more can you ask for from your employees? I mean, that's just being honest.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Inscoe?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Runger?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, Board. The last item is a fiscal office item.
Sure. Before I get to my agenda item, if I could ask, remind myself to turn on my microphone. Ask for the board's usual approval of payroll, purchase orders, and receipts.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Inscoe?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Runger?
Aye.
And I'd like to ask for the board to make a let me start over here, my goodness. Recommend the board to approve the Ohio Association of Professional Firefighters amended and restated 576B deferred compensation plan. Basically what has happened is the plan administrator had been Security Benefits and is now Prudential Bank. So we just need to, they changed their plan administrator. So we just have to do our paperwork to follow along with their change. So I'd like to ask for the board's approval of that.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? What it says here is that that plan was adopted April 10th, 2006. And now Prudential Bank is now the plan trustee. This is a change from the previous appointment of Security Benefit as the plan trustee.
Exactly.
So that's what the change is.
Right.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Inscoe?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. Our next item is citizens' address. If anybody would like to approach the microphone with a question.
Don't everybody jump up at once. Oh, okay, we got Jim going, good.
I'll get quicker as the months go on.
Just keep
Sorry,
moving.
man, that's yeah.
There was somebody came up here earlier about a township buying a brick for a veteran. You know, I am a veteran, and I'm a proud veteran. In fact, I was going to have a speech part of the meeting, but it was lagging too long here, and I did not do it. There was a gentleman died a couple of months ago. Did the township buy him a brick also and put someplace up at the corner or wherever?
To my knowledge, an employee is the only time we've done that. Steve Cassidy was the most recent.
I did not know Steve was an employee, but
Yeah,
I guess
Steve,
that's who it is.
Yeah, Steve was an employee.
Yeah, I'm kind of in favor of this, but you're setting a precedent. If you start buying bricks for every veteran that dies, I'm going to say, when I die, you're going to buy me a plaque.
Raj
and a
volunteered to
brick?
pay for that one.
Raj, I disagree with you.
We couldn't do it for everyone because the memorial would fill up in a year. You know what I mean?
Great,
I can't.
great. Let's fill the corner up there before we fill someplace else up. Right now, we got 816 bricks up there that are uncarved.
I don't know how many veterans in Colerain die a year, but I would imagine it would fill up relatively quick and just kind of get expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
Very
I mean,
expensive.
50 times 80.
I'm not against
800.
getting a brick for a vet, but I'm just saying we taxpayers should not pay for it. Period.
Well, I think Raj was offering to pay out of his own pocket. I don't think he was saying taxpayer
That's
money.
up to Raj.
Did I understand you right, Raj? I'm sorry.
Want to pave her up here. Sit right next
Wait
to
for
my
the
wife.
one, the lady, she said, Carrie.
Yeah. But you were saying do that out of your own pocket. You weren't suggesting the township. Yeah,
No, Raj
yeah. He wasn't suggesting the township would pay.
He can buy bricks all day long.
I just respect the veterans.
She, gentleman, was asking the township to buy it.
Okay.
Period.
Yeah.
Okay.
She may have been asking that, but Raj offered to do it out of his own pocket, not
Okay,
out of.
Go on. Carry on. Mr. Mills, this question is for you. I asked you a month ago about the proposed Kroger wall running along where the west side where the bank used to be. Is there any comments back on that? They opened up December 13th, and to date, they've stopped northwest of the bank. You got some poles in, but that's all. Are they going to have the wall up? Second part of that question. I asked you also to check into the zoning. If the zoning should not be between Kroger wall and the property owner's fence, landscaping. The way they've got it set right now, it's impossible, probably even get a lawnmower between that fence and the wall. Where do we stand at on that?
Mr. Acton, I'd have to look that up. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I'd be happy to get you a copy of the final development plan, and you can take a look at.
I've already got that plan right here with me.
There you go. That's it. Then you've got your answer right there.
No, I don't.
That's how it's going to be built. If that's the approved final development plan, that's how it's going to be built.
The yellow line here. Our zoning says that there's supposed to be a barrier between the wall and the property owners. There's not one there.
Sure. So there's, in addition to this sheet, there's a sheet that's the landscape plan for the project, and the landscape plan will identify where all the trees are planted.
Where do I find that landscape prop?
In our planning department.
Okay, I will stop and see Jenna on that. Back to you, Mr. Mills. What were the results of the Chris Green meeting about the Veterans Memorial to be built up here, please?
Mr. Green never reached out to me, so I haven't heard from Mr. Green in
Never
several
contacted
months.
you?
I haven't heard from Mr. Green in several months.
Now, this was last meeting, and he stood right here, and
Right. I mean, aside from
this meeting, you're
outside
saying?
of a public display, I haven't.
you've never met with him?
Not for several months.
Well, because there was a question about the monies being involved. He's got $10,000 currently in his banking account.
All we've asked Mr. Green for is a schedule, and we've given.
He
him,
hasn't provided that yet, has he?
No, we've given him many, many months. We said actually yesterday was the deadline to provide us with the schedule.
Okay, I will contact him about that. Raj, thank you for not agreeing with the proposed streetscape Colerain Avenue program. I agree with you. Get the other people involved first. See what their thoughts are on this thing before we go out spending $97,000 of my tax money. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Was there anybody else that had any, go ahead, Bruce.
A couple items here from today. With the event of the 911 cost going up $3 a call.
Proposed.
It's always 14.
Proposed, right? This is
Proposed.
not, they have not.
Well, proposed, which means they will.
God, Bruce, I pray you're wrong. I mean,
just reality.
You got the experience.
It's 14 something now per call, and something I have thought about, and I don't think I've spoken about it. That one of the ways we may be able to reduce some of those costs is to better inform the township folks about how to call directly into the police department or to the emergency, fire department, et cetera. Because the easiest thing when you have an emergency is just hit 911 because it's in your mind. Years ago, and I'm maybe 30, 40 years ago, the various municipalities put out stickers, instead of 911, here's your local fire, here's your local police. It may be more cost effective to look into some type of a sticker. If my understanding of the I voted stickers that were passed out the other Tuesday, about 10 cents a piece, they would be more cost effective to send out, or maybe a card
Magnets,
or something
right?
like that, where you could post it on your phone, or not everybody's going to use it, but if it reduces the number of 911 calls, I think it'd be something worth thinking about and looking into. The second is, Raj, I thought you brought up with Chief Cook, why was an EPA involved in the multi-hazard mitigation plan? The plan really, if you look at it, is floods, tornadoes, some man-made events. When EPA gets involved, it's generally you have an occurrence of a hazardous waste spill. If it's a certain size, the state of Ohio has purview, and they're stationed up in Dayton. If it's a larger spill based upon Superfund regulations of a certain amount, it triggers an emergency response. And the federal EPA has a response unit on-scene coordinators that are stationed out in Erlanger, Kentucky. So that's the reason why it's not in this plan. I mean, it's total like apples and oranges type of response. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Was there anybody else had any comments? Please approach the microphone, Kathy.
Okay, one question I had was for Chief Denny about the police cadet, and Jeff, you could probably answer this. He is full-time police cadet, but he's paid as a part-timer? That's how they did the last one?
Full-time I don't know.
Is he on an hourly rate, Kathy?
It's because he was only going to be in that position for a minimal amount of time.
Right.
And so, but they leave that position and go directly to full-time as a police officer. So does that mean they start on the insurance right away?
Your question is related to insurance?
Well, do they get the benefits? Yeah, the health insurance and that?
Let me find out. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
Do cadets get?
Yeah, because that was brought up at another meeting, and he said, no, they're only part-time because it's only under a certain amount of hours.
Good question.
I would think if we followed federal law and if that number is still 28 hours, and he's not less than 28 hours, I would not think we're compelled to provide it.
But the last one was working full-time. He was working 40 hours a week as a cadet.
Then he would be eligible for it, but I'm
They
not
said at the meeting he wasn't. So that's my question.
Thank you.
Kathy, I think all that's going to change January 1st anyway. I think that the individual mandate for health insurance goes away as a result of the action of the federal Congress.
What does what does mandate have to do with
providing insurance? So if we
well, we do provide it to any full-time employee.
Right, but I mean just the employer mandate that we would have to provide it. I think that changes. I'll have to look into that a little more, but I read that maybe in the Inquirer over the weekend.
Wouldn't provide
I'm not saying what we would do or wouldn't do. What I said was the federal mandate is, I think it's changing. And, we might, as we go down the road, we might amend our policies to reflect federal law, which I think changes January 1st.
But we offer health insurance to any full-time employee.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to comment about we're getting close to the end of the year, and Mr. Rowan enacted a change that we do a merit pool, and the board just approves an amount to be given to the employees, and I would like to ask that that be changed, and they go ahead and do the evaluations prior to getting an increase, and the board approves each individual increase instead of a pool amount. Because when you approve a pool amount, you don't have any say in what anybody's increase is going to be, and I don't think you even know what the increases are. You just know that we gave out $50,000. So I think it's a good idea for the board to know what employees are getting what percent, and I would ask that you change that policy of the merit pool increases.
So that the board would have, those would come to the board for approval rather
Correct.
than the administrator?
Correct. The administrator, they would do, last time they did the pool, approved the pool, and then they had $50,000, so then they did evaluations, and then they decided who got what percent. But maybe if you had $5,000 left, then you decide to go ahead and give that to somebody else. So I just think it'd be better if it was individually done. I had talked to Jeff. I had left him a message about the minutes. Did you find out anything about that, about putting the date on each page of the minutes?
It seems like that is doable, but I haven't been able to confirm like how to do it. So Ms. Moore asked me to put the date of the meeting on every page of the minutes.
Because it's not there. And it,
Yeah, that seems fair. I mean,
I feel like that's, I don't know.
Logically, I think I can do that.
Yeah.
okay. And I noticed when you did the proposal for the policy manual, the page just had the little Colerain up in the corner. It didn't have this. It looks like with the minutes, you're wasting half of the page with the logo and everything. So maybe the other pages of the minutes you could do with just the corner thing, because you are really wasting a whole half of the page. When you were talking about the schools and they waived the sidewalk thing, who authorized them to waive that?
we would have had to have voted on it, right?
Not
Them. That would have been
Like
my
Pleasant Run Middle School or Pleasant Run Elementary, that was brought before the board to waive that?
would have had to have been.
I wasn't here.
Heather, you want to do a quick public record request on that? I don't recall voting on that, but man, that's a vote I'm going to regret if it turns out that I voted in favor of granting them that.
So
because
any waivers were motioned on by the Board of Trustees?
That's the way it's supposed to work, yeah.
Okay, okay. Oh. Jeff, as far as this plan for Colerain Avenue, do you recommend that plan? I mean, do you feel that's worthy, that Colerain that will benefit from that? You recommend that plan for that expense?
I did, yes.
Okay. And the Calfee thing, what exactly do you mean communications? I don't understand what they're doing. I know we got new equipment for a website, for doing the minutes, for doing the agenda. So what exactly is this for communications?
Sure. Just 1 second.
$648.
Okay, so they're going to provide a comprehensive communications plan and strategy that's tailored to the township's needs. It'll include clear objectives, target audiences, strategy development, tactics, key messages, action items, and a calendar of deliverables.
Of what? I mean, phone calls or?
Communication.
I mean.
The way that, so what we really want to do is engage better with residents, and so this is a plan for engagement.
So they're going to tell you how,
They're
if you
gonna
get a phone
provide-
call, how you can,
No,
what,
they're-
how you can better respond to that?
There are many different ways to communicate with people, and so they're going to provide communication objectives. They're going to identify target audiences within our community to receive those messages, right? They're going to develop a communications strategy for us. They're going to identify communications tactics. They're going to identify key messages. They're going to identify action items and a calendar of deliverables.
And one of the other earlier speakers this evening commented that we don't get information out. It was Keith talking about hiding everything and not reporting about Rumpke.
There are so many different ways to do communication these days. There's this sort of omni-channel communication strategy is what we're looking for. So on Facebook, what are the best messages for the Facebook audience? On Circle, what are the best messages for a Circle audience? How can we get the work and messages that are important to residents out in a better way? And so that's what this is.
Okay. I would just think that any information you could put out on the website,
Sure.
and
That's
anybody
another
that's
communication channel. Yep.
we could just save yourself $2,500.
That's not the only one.
Anyway, one more question. Mr. Barbier, how many pending lawsuits do we have?
We have a suit that we filed against BBC. We have your suit, and I think we have one over a stop sign. Those are the only ones I'm thinking of right now.
So we have three pending lawsuits?
I'm not positive, but that's all I can think of as I sit here right now. I
Okay.
think that's all there are.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy. Did anyone else have any questions?
Yes, is there any development on the Duke project?
Do we have an update on that?
It's moving. It's progressing.
Okay, has the property been transferred yet?
It has not.
Okay, has the money been transferred for the loan from the township to the CIC?
No, because one of the things that we try to do is invest our cash in a way that returns interest. And so if we were to have transferred that money 3 months ago, we would be missing out on all the interest that it's making right now.
Is the public invited to the land use committee meetings?
No, that's a private meeting.
It's a private meeting?
It's
How
not
would
a
you describe that, Jeff. Private's probably not the best.
No, it's not a public meeting, and that's included in the bylaws.
Okay. Can you tell me what these initials mean? AICP, I'm sure that has to do with some type of planning or something. That's one of your degrees or something that you have on after your name?
Yeah, and sure, it's American Institute of Certified Planners.
And LEED?
LEAD.
I can spell. What does the acronym
You
mean
could
for?
also Google this, and we wouldn't be here at 11 o'clock at night.
It's okay.
Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design,
Okay.
accredited professional.
And then AP?
Accredited professional.
Okay. So I'm just curious that we have a administrator who has a great education in planning and things like that for a community and economic development. And I'm just wondering if perhaps we made an error in promoting someone to an administrative position who is so qualified in the area that we seem to be lacking on in Colerain Township. We continuously to keep outsourcing for something, other opinions or better ideas, but yet we have an employee who
cannot
more
be in more than one place at the
Do
same
you have
time.
an engineer stamp or an architect stamp, Jeff? Can you go get those?
He probably could because
Could you
he's
get
smart
me a
enough.
ham
but
sandwich?
Do what?
Could you get me a ham sandwich? Exactly. So I'm just
You're not going to take
saying.
me down that road.
So I'm just saying that I think his talents. He's a very talented, educated man, and I don't know if we're using his talents in the right way. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Stephanie. Does
Oh,
anybody
wait.
else have any comments? Go ahead, Bruce.
Dinsmore and Scholl. Do we recently use them? And what was this for? $1,100?
Yes. So every year, as part of our TIF reporting, we have to file a report. And Dinsmore and Scholl was our bond counsel on the sale of bonds going way back. And so they prepared that report for us for that fee.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Bruce.
I'll make this quick, but for the record, the Rumpke meeting was not a township meeting. It was an Ohio EPA meeting, and they were just using our facility. There's
That's
been
what I
other
said.
Rumpke meetings that have been held around the area, not in the township facilities. So the township's not responsible for it.
Thank you. Seeing no one else jumping up, move on to our next item, which is a executive session. Do we need that?
No, sir.
Our next item is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I motion to adjourn. It's been motioned
I
and
was not going to
seconded.
make that motion.
It's been motioned. It's been motioned and seconded.
Did you really second that, Raj?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Heather, please call the roll. Unless there's further discussion?
Mr. Insco?
Aye, for all three of us. Thank
Aye,
you.
this meeting is adjourned
Thanks for being here, guys.
at 10:54 p.m.
Okay, guys, you cannot leave until you sign all of these. All of the resolutions and everything.